Hey, I'm Captain America. I can sock old Hitler on the jaw.
Yeah, just make sure someone else pilots the plane to get me there, right?
You remember Hitler, right?
That other guy you were fighting before you froze yourself? Hey.
I had no choice, okay?
Don't crash the plane in warmer waters.
I want to swim when I'm chasing submarines.
Oh, like you two could have done it any better.
Are you kidding? Dude, I catch falling planes in midair like every other week.
And I'm Batman.
Okay, fair enough. But wait. Shh. Do you guys hear that?
Hear what?
Is that the Justice League calling?
I don't hear anything.
Yeah, me neither.
Exactly.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rollin' 20s. We are the show that's failed its charisma check and couldn't talk itself out of getting married to a bridge troll. I am Jeremy.
Scared.
B.
Remember, you can subscribe to this show and several others in the MSP library at missionstarpodcast.com. You can like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on Stitcher and on iTunes. You can follow us on
Try again.
You can follow us on Twitter at the Rolling 20s. You can send us any fan mail, suggestions for the show, or hate mail at mspfreight@yahoo.com. At the beginning of the show, we use some music by Machine Supremacy. You can find most of their discography for free download at machinesupremacy.com, as well as their latest couple of albums available for purchase on amazon.com. At the very beginning of the show, you heard a clip from How It Should Have Ended, Captain America. It's basically their idea. Well, I would say it's how they thought the movie should finish, but in reality I used an extra clip from the end where he talks to Superman and Batman. So it was kind of refreshing to wake up this morning, waking up at what I thought was 6, eating slowly, getting, kind of turned around. Then I realized that every clock that I don't use to wake up said it was half an hour or a full hour later.
Yeah, apparently my cell phone didn't get the memo until I restarted it either.
Yeah, and then the great news was I hurried up, I jumped into Skype, I found Jesse, who's just kind of gives me that quizzical, hello, what are you doing here so early? I had the self-validation of realizing I wasn't the only one with this problem, obviously.
Yep.
I called Vita to make sure that she's okay, and all I get is, I'm waking.
Did I really sound like that?
Well, about 3 octaves higher, but yeah. It was that voice that told me that she's in full motion, but has no idea why yet.
And for some reason, the heater is set to fucking 62.
A little inadequate.
Yeah, getting out of the covers was a challenge.
I was wondering where you were. And all of a sudden I have this image of V, like, the first Earthborn cat girl, as she sticks her arms out from under the cover, all of a sudden her paws are cold and reaches back under.
Okay.
Has that expression like, how do I get across this damn hardwood? We followed a suggestion by V, and we read the first 5 issues of Preacher in the last week, and we're going to discuss that one. But before we do, we'll get into the usual nonsense we do. Actually, before we get into the Kickstarter corner, I should mention that while I was waking up, I was reading an article on Dorkly.com again.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know Dungeons & Dragons has cheat codes?
What do you mean?
The book game, yeah. If you enter the code Rich Nerdy Friend, it unlocks all miniatures, expansions, books, games, accessories at no personal cost.
In where?
Dungeons & Dragons.
I'm confused.
Let me reread that. If you enter the code Rich Nerdy Friend, you unlock all miniatures, expansions, books, and game accessories at no personal cost.
Okay.
If you enter the code Oops, the dice fell on the floor, you can replace any crappy roll with a natural 20.
Nice.
Enter the code Crunchwrap Bribery, and any Taco Bell menu item may now be traded to the DM for better item drops.
Nice.
Where have I heard this before?
The code intimidation check allows a redo on any failed skill roll. The code spill soda everywhere distracts Dungeon Master long enough for a free peek behind the DM screen. You can enter the code emotional breakdown. If your player character dies in battle, this code will revive him at the cost of your friend's respect for you. And finally, there is the code hard reset, which gets you into a violent argument over whether or not you are wrongly denied an attack of opportunity. Graduate into screaming match over whether the 4th edition is best. Continue until someone flips table. D&D night is over. All players may proceed to Mario Kart.
That's so true. Except for the 4th edition part. No one argues about that.
Fortunately, I've only seen half of these, and it's usually the more ridiculous ones. You know, I have seen tacos traded for a better sword.
Yeah.
I have not seen dice fell on the floor. And, you know, Steve knows my circle. Rich, nerdy friend does not exist.
No.
In Kickstarter Corner, something we've seen for a while has ended. Sosu, barrel-aged sriracha. Sosu sauces of San Francisco, California. That is a hell of a lot of alliteration. Their Kickstarter was for a new Sosu recipe that is aged in whiskey barrels. I don't know if that means they were used as whiskey barrels originally, but you know that could only help your cause a bit. It ended on 17 hours ago, so it ended just yesterday, the 8th of March. Had 2,165 backers. The goal was $20,000 to make this dip in sauce. It ended at $104,146. There's going to be a lot of barrels sitting around. You know, not bad for your first Kickstarter, though.
Right?
I mean, I see some of the ideas of the ingredients she plans to use, but at the same time, I seriously doubt she's going to post her full recipe up here.
Yeah, that would be a little silly.
Yeah, Plankton would steal it. Okay, obviously I'm the only one that watches the show. Never mind. Also been following the Cat Town Cafe. The Catman of West Oakland trying to build the first U.S. cat cafe.
Yeah, that didn't get as close as I thought it would.
No, it really didn't. It had a goal of $60,000. Time, this one ended on March 8th, and they only ended up with $40,695. They fell, unfortunately, well short of their goal.
Aw. That's not surprising, but aw.
Well, there's an addendum to this. Because Brandon turned me on to the fact that somebody's trying to build a cat cafe in Los Angeles. And there's another Kickstarter. It has 22 days to go. It ends on March 31st, has 303 backers, and has a goal of $350,000. They currently sit at $8,530.
Yeah.
Maybe they should email everyone who is on the other Indiegogo page and bring them. It's being done by Carlos Wong of Los Angeles, California. I wish I could say what the difficulty seems to be in cat cafes, because I know there's a market for it. I was at Petco yesterday picking up rabbit food, and there was a lot of cats in this place and a lot of people buzzing around the cages.
Yeah. I'll tell you what my problem is. I already have 3 damn cats.
Maybe you can let them borrow.
They could keep them all.
You imagine somebody trying to sit down and concentrate while your youngest cat is right next to the table?
That's my oldest cat. What are you talking about? She doesn't leave me alone.
I would go to a cat cafe. I have 2.5 cats, and I still love cats.
Okay, fine. I'll ask.
I'm one of
How
those
do you have a half cat?
Yeah.
It's my roommate's cat. It's not technically my cat because I don't take care of it.
Okay, I was about to say, was this some kind of messy breakup? Fine, you keep the back half. You know.
Well, in that case, I don't have any cats.
By that logic, 2 of these cats don't belong to any of us.
Yeah.
Then charge him rent. Another Kickstarter we following has ended, and that's She Makes Comics. Sequart Research and Literacy Organization was trying to make a documentary on the role of women in comics and female creators and fans. This Kickstarter ended on March 7th. Had 1,452 backers. The goal was $41,500. They were close last time we looked in. Their final tally was $54,001.
Awesome.
They didn't hit any of this. They hit one of the stretch goals, and that was a 15-minute mini documentary about Jackie Orms. She was the first African-American woman cartoonist. So, unfortunately, they came in within $1,000, their $55,000 stretch goal, and for that, every DVD they sold would have become a special edition.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but they came in literally $999 short of that one. It's very rare to find that one. I wonder who decided to donate the $1.
Someone with some sense of irony?
Maybe. Another finished Kickstarter is My Miracle by All the Anime of Glasgow, UK. They are trying to put together an English adaptation of My Miracle, which was done by the assistant director of Kiki's Delivery Service and the director of Black Lagoon. This Kickstarter also ended on March 7th. It had 1,903 backers. The goal was $30,000. They finished at $107,153.
Yep.
This one was released in 2009, and it swept awards like the Audience Award for Best Animated Feature for Adults, the BETV Awards, at Anima, the Brussels Animation Film Festival, and it won the jury prize for Best Animated Film at the Fantasia Film Festival in Montreal, the Excellence Prize for Feature-Length Animation at the 2010 Japan Media Arts Festival. If it's won this many prizes, I wonder why there hasn't been an English adaptation This looks like the kind of cute, Ghibli-style anime that Americans eat with a straw.
No one thought of it yet?
I don't know. Every time there's money to be made, Disney's standing there with its wallet saying, "Gimme, gimme, gimme." We've also been following the Kickstarter of Super Mario Brothers stop-motion pixel art. Guy DePesmer wants to make a stop-motion video of Super Mario Brothers, and he has a history of doing this to video games like Donkey Kong, Super Mario 3, Final Fantasy, and he does it all with Hama and Perler beads. His Kickstarter is 12 days to go and ends on Friday, March 21st. Has 56 backers. The goal is $300 Canadian. He currently sits at $1,073 Canadian. He's still about 1,000 Canadian short, or I should say a little over 900 Canadian short of his final stretch goal of $2,000, where he'll make stage 1-4. I still need to look at his videos. I don't know if he's serious about this, or if his videos take a turn and it's like Donkey Kong stops throwing barrels and just chases down Mario with a giant hammer or something. I need to do
funny.
Yeah, I need to do quote research. Another Kickstarter we've seen is Galactic Princess by Cecily of Paris, France. It is they call it an adventure through deep space, although looking at some of the pictures, this seems like a moderate homage to Star Wars in all respects. It's definitely done in this bizarre, almost 8-bit style. This Kickstarter has 7 days to go and ends on Sunday, March 16th. Has 1,678 backers. The goal is £20,000 UK. Currently sits at £26,079 UK. If you pledge just £10 or more, you get a DRM-free digital copy of the game.
Nice.
That's all it takes to play it, at least. Let me see. At 20 £20 or more, you get beta access, the digital copy of the game, and your name in the credits. At $150, you get a mouse pad, paper art book, collector's mug, collector USB key, beta access, DRM copy of the game, and your name in the credits. The biggest donation level, there's 3 out of 3 still available at £2,000. You get to design a series of quests, a mouse pad, a paper art book, a collector mug, a collector USB key, beta access, DRM free copy of or digital copy of the game, and your name in the credits. And a partridge in a pear tree.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. Something new I found, and I think I'm going to get involved in this really heavily. It's called Hi-Fi Color for Comics. Brian Miller of Surprise, Arizona, and I guess that's really the name of the place, Surprise, Arizona. What's a surprise? You're in Arizona? Anyway, he's putting together a book, a hardcover book, that will teach you step by step how to color comics panels with Photoshop tutorials from pros who do things for Marvel, DC, and Image.
Oh, that's cool.
It involves the tools and technique, importing and formatting, flat color, rendered color, special effects. This is the kind of stuff I would like to know, not for any other purpose than because, comic books amuse me and I think it'd be cool.
I'd like to know. I think I'd...
Well, here's the thing.
It'd be interesting.
This is a brand new Kickstarter because it has 24 days to go. It ends on Wednesday, April 2nd. Has 224 backers. The goal is $14,900. They already sit at $9,253.
Nice.
They're well over halfway, and this thing isn't even, a quarter finished yet? Let's see. At $10, you get Hi-Fi Color for Comics mini art print. Your name listed in the VIP section of the credits page. Where's the level where you actually get a copy? Okay, at $20, you get a Comixology or digital edition of Hi-Fi Color for Comics. For $25, you get the print edition. So for $25, you actually get the book.
Nice.
$20, you get the digital book. Of course, they've got bigger versions. For $40, you get the Comixology edition, and a signed print edition of the book, plus enrollment in the Hi-Fi Academy and a Hi-Fi Color Comics mini art print. I did a little reading. The Hi-Fi Academy, what they do is that they will check your early work based on the directions of the book. They'll grade it, and then you can come back again for free in 6 months, and they'll tell you how you've progressed.
Intriguing.
They do have a $2,000 package. Hi-Fi Comes to You. Brian and Chrissy Miller will travel to your school, library, comic book shop, or Comic-Con in the continental U.S. This reward includes a custom itinerary created for your location and event. That's pretty nifty, actually. $2,000 people will come and actually help you? That's pretty bitchin'.
Indeed.
So, I have a feeling this one's going to take some of my money. Another new one I found is Black Tiger, a comic book movie with Robin Shou and Angela Fong. Robin Shou, he played Liu Kang in the Mortal Kombat movies.
Okay.
It is described as a short film where somebody is making a movie based on a comic book called Black Tiger. It appears to be about a young lady looking for revenge for her father's death, who is played by Robin Shou. So I guess Angela Fong is the hero, and Robin Shou is the motivation. It's being done by Beyond Time Incorporated of Duarte, California. Has 15 days to go and ends on Monday, March 24th. Has 88 backers. The goal is $12,000. They currently sit at $4,813.
That's still pretty impressive for 88 backers.
That does imply they put in a significant amount of money per person.
Mm-hmm.
However, to be only a third of the way along at 15 days...
Yeah.
That is problematic. It's not impossible, but it's problematic. I don't know the Black Tiger comic myself. I wonder if some people might be backing off this because, young woman seeking revenge for a relative that was killed. That sounds like the Marvel character White Tiger.
Kind of sounds a little bit like Kill Bill, too.
Yeah. Or, Batman. But it's only supposed to be 20 minutes long. I wonder what's going into the production that requires $12,000 for 20 minutes,
Yeah, could be a lot of CG. Could just be paying actors' fees. I don't know.
Well, it says here that Black Tiger Hunter Hunted is approximately 20 minutes in length and features a cast of familiar faces from Mortal Kombat, WWE, and Star Trek Renegades, plus a collection of rising actors. I wonder who they mean by WWE, because I don't know if that means current or past or, fat guy or whatever.
I don't know. I'm a little jealous, though, because my nephew's posted on Facebook that Mick Foley is coming their way.
To see him personally, or?
Well, I mean, not in person, but I mean at an event in their area.
Yeah, I saw him at Comic-Con last year.
Oh, nice.
Big smile on that man's face.
Dude, that man has succeeded in life.
Oh, remind me after this is done. I got to show you a picture because I was at their Mattel panel last year, and I realized like halfway through the panel I could get really close to the table and take a picture. So I got a picture of Mick Foley like listening intently to The Miz, and Dolph Ziggler just kind of looking my direction like, what the fuck? What's the fat bald guy doing here? And unfortunately, that's the picture I snapped. So I got this one of Dolph Ziggler staring death at me. I also found a Kickstarter for Earthlock, Festival of Magic. This is in regards to a new turn-based role-playing game set in a world of machines, magic, and a world that stopped spinning thousands of years ago.
Huh.
I mean, I may have just told the entire story. It almost sounds like a war against machines to get the planet to start moving again. This game has 33 days to go. The Kickstarter ends on April 11th. Has 1,174 backers. The goal is $150,000. They currently sit at $33,265. This is being done by Snowcastle Games of Oslo, Norway. I'm kind of on the fence about this because they have a whole bunch of art and production stills, but seeing that these days, video games, you can't tell a whole lot by stills.
Yeah.
They do appear to have a couple YouTube videos in here, though. It's one of those things I'm moderately curious about. I guess it's just hard for me to put money behind a project I haven't seen yet. Still, though, wish them luck. I also found Darkest Dungeon by Red Hook Studios. Darkest Dungeon is a gothic roguelike RPG about the psychological stresses of adventuring.
Ah, nice.
This one has 4 days to go. This ends on Thursday, March 13th. It has 7,868 backers. The goal is $75,000.
Wow.
They currently sit at $256,988.
Yeah, I was going to say, with that many backers, they've shot past that.
Yeah, this is being done by Tyler Sigmund of Bellington, Washington. I've seen a couple GIFs and a couple of items. This is definitely a dark and foreboding-looking thing. And it does show that you do dungeon crawl to a degree. It's one of those more or less flash-based RPGs, so there's not a whole lot of motion. But the whole thing is just dark. It's creepy. Just staring at it I don't want to say brings my energy level down, but it definitely feels very foreboding. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So this could be just what certain gamers are looking for when it comes to a game that's both entertaining yet depressing.
I could get behind it.
Well, the early birds are gone, but if you pledge $49 or more, you get a digital edition of the game, exclusive character class, PDF art book, original soundtrack, and adventurer credit, plus all previous rewards. So it sounds like for $50, you get in on the game. And the last Kickstarter I have is Pro Wrestling X. Wrestling Games United of Lethbridge, Canada is putting together a game based on the, I guess you could say, based on the older versions of wrestling games, more simplified controls. Think games of the N64 era, like WCW NWO Revenge and WWF No Mercy, except they take advantage of current gaming engine technology, at least. So simpler controls, but current graphics. However, because this is an independent game, don't expect anything more than knockoffs of current wrestlers. However, it has 29 days to go. This ends on April 7th. It has 294 backers. The goal is $6,400 Canadian. They currently sit at $9,812 Canadian. Game is getting made.
Nice.
Some of the ideas they have are rather nice. They have like old-fashioned, or they have something similar to cells for their matches. They even have a scaffold match where there's scaffolding all around the ring, including suspension where you can throw people down. So it looks like they're not just going to give you knockoff wrestlers. They're going to give you like some of the legendary matches that made guys from ECW, curl up in pain. Let's see. At what level do you actually get this? If you can pledge $15, the quote here says, quote, "More fun than a coconut to the skull. It's a digital download of Pro Wrestling X. We'll throw in some desktop wallpapers just for fun. Credit in-game as a Kickstarter backer. And Pro Wrestling Shoot podcast." So for $15, you get the game.
Wow.
For $25, you get the game, all previous goods mentioned, early access to the closed beta. They'll send you a newsletter anthology ebooks, and 620 newsletters plus additional commentary.
Bam.
What were you going to say, V?
That's cheap
It is.
to get the game.
That's probably how they got it how they got this done so quickly, is just because it doesn't take much to get involved and actually get the product. You know, this is one of those things where if I knew more people in my area, I'd probably pick this up, because wrestling games can be slow and plodding, but when you have a group of people in the room laughing at each other, they can be a hell of a lot of fun.
What are you talking about? I love the wrestling game I played as a kid. It was great to be able to hit an old lady over the head with a ladder.
I still miss Saturday Night Slam Masters. You ever played that one?
I don't think so.
It was a Neo Geo game during the era of the 4-game stand-ups, you know, the CADs. And one of them had a special move. He was this fat guy that looked like Kamala. He would stand the guy up, reach into his sarong, pull out a knife, stab the guy like 15 times in rapid succession, and as soon as he fell down, he'd shove the knife back in his sarong and hold up his hands like, "I didn't see no knife, ref. I don't know what you're talking about."
God, classic.
Brutal and sick. From there, we'll go ahead and get into our news of the week. Yes?
Actually, I have one that I'd like to mention as well.
Oh, go for it.
It's the Orion project.
Okay.
I kind of became aware of it because they were offering up a different game for really cheap on Steam, and I was like, why not? And the game's actually pretty fun. It's a first-person shooter where you're going around killing dinosaurs.
So you're not Turok.
But no, yeah. Some of the reviews were describing it kind of like, you know, Turok meets Halo and stuff like that. So
that's not bad.
But they're but they're doing kind of a massively first-person shooter type world, and so that's the Orion project.
Okay.
And speaking of cheap, it's like $5 to get the game on Steam.
Dude.
So that's your first pledge is $5. You know, or actually, I should say that's your second pledge. The first pledge is just, you know, a thank you and desktop wallpaper and stuff. But yeah, $5 backing gets you a copy of the game on Steam. So,
cool.
Yeah, and apparently, if you back this project, you get all of their games ever for the rest of your life. So anything else that they release is all going to be included. So.
Ooh,
I don't know. Yeah,
it's.
I'm enjoying their current game. The graphics aren't like the be all end all, but it's still a fun game. So, if anybody feels like backing this, it's called the Orion Project.
Does sound.
They still have 50 days to go, but they're looking at $200,000. They want $200,000, and they're at $18,351 at the moment. So, kind of hard to say which way this is going.
Yeah. Be sure to send me the link so I can add that to everything.
Okay.
Okay, the first thing I have in regular news, we're starting with our video game news. This would technically fit into DC Media, but since this is one of the bigger stories in nerddom through the week, I think I should throw it in here with the general video game news. Remember we discussed last week that there was this odd teaser that GameStop may have had regarding Batman, the Arkham games?
Yeah.
Turned out that played out, because the day after we recorded, it was officially announced that Batman Arkham Knight is coming in 2014. It's coming to the next-gen and systems only, the Xbox One and the PS4. There will be no 360 or PS3 version of this game. The storyline is that the Scarecrow has aligned several of Gotham's more notable villains with the idea of basically ransacking Gotham and ruining the Batman. Kevin Conroy is returning for this game as the voice of Batman. There's a brand new Batmobile, which you will be able to drive in-game.
Sweet.
And there is already some art out, including what the Penguin and Harley Quinn would look like. I can get you links to that on newsarama.com. Harley Quinn, though, the art style they put together, or the art print, I should say, she reminds me of the ex-girlfriend from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. The facial expression or the facial shape is very similar. There is some of the details that came out via geekexchange.com is that Arkham Knight isn't just the name of the game, it's also the name of a brand new villain Rocksteady is working with DC's Jeff Johns to create. From scratch. The game is to take place 1 year after Arkham City. With the Joker dead, Gotham's villains come together to try and take down Batman. Scarecrow, Two-Face, Penguin, and Harley Quinn are all confirmed. Kevin Conroy is back as Batman. Troy Baker is Two-Face. Nolan North is Penguin, and Tara Strong is Harley Quinn, with Wally Wingert as the Riddler. Batman actually visits with Oracle in game. She is not just a voice in his earpiece in this one. And this is Rocksteady's last Batman game. There's going to be a clear ending to the Arkham trilogy. You know what that means? This might be the last Batman game I buy.
Yeah.
I admit, I have not played Origins. I hear it's okay and everything, but I just, I trust this team. So that's why I say may.
Yeah.
The game is next-gen only. It's single-player, no multiplayer in this one. Takes place in a central zone of Gotham City split into 3 islands, and it's 5 times bigger than Arkham City.
Wow.
Fuck.
Cutscenes are all in-game, so it doesn't feel like you're playing a game, then watching a movie. All quick-fire gadgets can now be used during flight. Holy shit. Batman can perform a quick ground strike to downed opponents. Interrogations are back. Batman can incorporate the environment of his combat combos, the environment into his combat combos like never before. So I guess that means now you're not just throat-kicking a guy on the wall. Fear takedowns allow Batman to take out multiple enemies in slow motion as long as he isn't spotted. Level of detail is apparently impressive. All characters are incredibly detailed. One has a polygon count of the whole environment of Arkham Asylum.
Whoa.
Batman's cape and character clothing reacts realistically to wind and environment. The Batmobile is so detailed it would take up the space of an entire Xbox 360 game.
Good lord.
It's the only drivable vehicle in the game. Players can bring the Batmobile to their location with the press of A button. It can do burnouts, jumps, boosts, and even rotate in circles at full stop to get you pointed in the right direction. It can smash through barricades, trees, and building corners. And Batman can eject out of the Batmobile and go directly into gliding through the city.
Nice.
So apparently he's been drinking whatever Superman has. No, I mean, this sounds groovy to me. I mean, Arkham Origins, I'm still kind of on the fence, even though it's on sale for like $40 brand new right now.
Yeah.
The description of this and the fact that it's Rocksteady again, I hate Batman, but I'm going to play it.
Guilty pleasure.
Guilty nothing. I'm playing it with a huge grin on my face because I say to myself, this is it. I'm done. Ain't getting no better. But something that almost stole the thunder from all this Batmanery is the fact that Watch Dogs, this game that's been highly anticipated and been pushed back several times, has a release date now.
Oh.
It's being put out on November 19th, 2013. It's by Ubisoft. It was an early story that leaked on the Xbox 360 preview dashboard. It was supposed to be a 360 game, but just kept getting pushed back and pushed back. I don't know if that means it's Xbox exclusive. Oh, no, it's not. I'm sorry. It's going to be available for PC, Xbox 360, Xbox One, PS3, and PS4, with an undetermined an undetermined date for Wii U. It's an interesting story because you're a cyber thief. You use your handheld device to actively hack things and other people as they go by, so you can get more information and progress through the story of the game. And of course, you have to defend yourself from being hacked by other thieves. There's also a multiplayer aspect to this. It's had people's attention for a while because it's a different style of game,
Yeah.
There's I saw one still of a guy who apparently hacked a steam pipe to blow it up underneath a cop car that was chasing him.
Nice.
So, it sounds like a fun game to me. Something I came across, which isn't exactly news, it was just kind of something that hit me while I was surfing the web, is a game that's in beta right now called The Mighty Quest for Epic Loot.
Oh, yes.
I've
I remember that
heard
one.
of that.
Yeah, you can find it at themightyquest.com. It's a dungeon builder. You get to actively build your own castle and then dare people to play one of 4 character classes to come in and try and steal your shit.
Yeah. It's been described as Diablo 2 meets Dungeon Keeper.
Pretty much. And the videos are almost silly when it comes to the beta.
Oh yeah.
The only thing that stops me is I've never just been a fan of dungeon crawling in general. I always like interacting with other people. So I know, though, that there is a market for this game simply because the way they portrayed it just... Frankly, I've seen Steve and Jesse play stuff like this when I'm over visiting and ignore me for a while.
Yeah, I really kind of wanted to get in during its alpha. They had a couple of early access packages going on Steam, but couldn't really afford to do it. Now it's in beta, open beta.
Yeah, it's open beta. You can play it now and see if you like it at least.
Yeah, I bought so damn many games during their last Steam sale. I'm still trying to catch up.
Well, speaking of bought, I'm out $500.
Ooh.
No, it's for...
It this time.
I picked up I pre-ordered the Xbox One Titanfall bundle.
Oh, nice.
So I have 2 days to wait for that to come out. And it's no... I even picked up one of the limited edition Titanfall controllers.
Huh.
Okay.
So I actually have 2 controllers. That means I'm able to share this thing. You know, if I knew somebody in the area who wanted to share.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a feeling I'm probably going to be buying it for PC.
Well, I was planning on getting involved in the next gen, and a free game is a good way for me to get involved.
Yep.
The reason why I mention that, though, is not because I'm glad-handing myself and I want the rest of you to find where I live and rob me. It's because Best Buy is actually having a midnight release on March 11th.
Mm.
You know, they're going to open their doors at 12:01 a.m. on March 11th and start selling the bundle.
Cool.
Or that you can buy the game at $60. Actually, Best Buy is where I went to get the limited controller because GameStop told me they had actually been out for 2 weeks and they were all out of them.
Wow.
So I just went by Best Buy on a lark, just kind of shopping around, and there they were. There was like a dozen of them on the floor. It's like, mine!
Nice.
You know, the controller was only $5 more than the regular one, so if I got to get one, why not get a pretty one?
Indeed.
And also in regards to Titanfall, you know how sometimes people get into trouble because they legitimately bought a copy of the game and for some reason some a-hole screwed up and put it out too early? Like that guy,
yeah.
like that guy that got his account banned for a little while because he got his Xbox One like about a week before they were supposed to hit the streets.
Right.
You know, they of course unbanned him and they apologize. Well, when it comes to Titanfall, players will not be banned for playing early. They're not going to penalize people for accidentally getting a copy of the game legitimately.
So they're planning for people to accidentally get it.
No, I think they're planning on somebody to be stupid enough to just say, okay, put it out.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So at least they're finally acknowledging that sometimes things just aren't people's, purposeful fault. Nobody's trying to screw anybody. It just sometimes happens that there's a clerical error and things come out too early. Besides, it's not like EA doesn't have enough problems of its own as being noted as one of the worst companies in America.
Mm.
Which is saying something in a country with the likes of BP.
Yeah. It should also be noted that I used to drive by an EA building on my way home. Big glassing, really pretty. I drove by it the other day. It's an LA Fitness now.
Oh.
It's kind of weird to drive by this building that I drove by for over a year, just seeing all these offices and cubicles and really nifty, conference rooms. Now I look up in there and there's sweaty people on treadmills, which arguably is the same job.
But less metaphorical.
Ooh. Well, Disney Interactive has laid off 700 people, about a quarter of their workforce.
Yeah.
I heard about this.
Yeah, my first reaction was, oh my god, you just bought all these new properties and you can't put out games? What's wrong with you? Then I read that in the last few years, the division lost a combined $1 billion.
Yeah.
That's in recent years. They also apparently are doing the Squaresoft thing, and they're trying to get more into the mobile platform. They bought a mobile game developer called Playdom for over $500 million.
Yeah, that's what's hot right now.
Yeah, but it hasn't borne them significant fruit lately. I can't say I really blame them, though. Disney's not exactly known for video games. They're probably better off licensing out. Which may be the direction they're heading.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Disney and video games, Square Enix has a survey going on right now, an online survey via SurveyMonkey.
Yeah.
It can take you about 10 to 20 minutes, and it's all questions about Kingdom Hearts. They're actually going down and asking you what your favorite games are, what's your age, what kind of games you buy over a certain period. They want to know all kinds of stuff about you so they can prepare the next Kingdom Hearts game. I spent some time going through it because I heard it was 10 to 20 minutes, and of course I got to research for this show. It only took me about 12, and it asked me at the end, so what kind of things would you like to see from a new Kingdom Hearts game? And I answered honestly. I'd like to see Disney use all those properties they just bought and have a Kingdom Hearts game that includes Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars.
Indeed.
I doubt I'm alone in that. But we'll post a link to the survey so people who want to annoy Square Enix can do it themselves.
Excellent.
A producer plans to unearth the worst game ever made.
Who and what?
Intentionally?
There's a producer, his name is, wow. I see his name in here several times. It's Chin. His name is Jonathan Chin. And he held a panel at SXSW 2014 for their latest look at a progress at a documentary he's making, because urban legend has it that when Atari made a game that was so awful it nearly crashed the video game industry, 10 truckloads of it were buried in an unknown location in the New Mexico desert.
E.T.?
Yep. He's looking for the legendary cache of E.T. games, and he says he's days away from finding it, frankly.
Okay.
I don't know why one would do this, but okay.
E.T. literally almost killed video games. Atari and several other systems had been out for a while, and things were going, moderately well. Video gaming was still kind of a laughable hobby, but people were doing it. Then Atari put out E.T., which was so rushed and hurried to make a specific date, the game is pretty much unrecognizable to anything in the movie. I remember playing it for about 15 minutes as a kid and just being confused and never went back. It was god-awful. And because of how bad it was, it affected the rest of the video game industry. People were getting rid of consoles, games were not being sold. Nobody put any money into marketing games. If you just didn't find it, you never heard of it or saw it. It really damn near killed an entire industry.
Wow.
So apparently they buried all the unsold copies of it. Millions of copies of it, supposedly. And this guy thinks he's pretty close to finding it.
What does he plan to do with them?
I don't know.
Burn them?
Put them in a museum? I mean,
Ritual burning.
the E.T. game is awful, but there's so few copies out there, it's kind of a collector's item right now.
I suppose. Although if you suddenly flood the market with millions of copies, then...
Yeah, but how many more gamers are there now?
True.
If they're in good condition, just put it in a glass case and put it away. There is a GoFundMe campaign going on right now, and the reason why I didn't mention it in the Kickstarter corner is because it is a very important one. And this is more news than it is just kind of looking out for nerd interest. Brandon Boyer, he's a video game journalist, an indie video game journalist, and he's creator of Boing Boing's Offworld. He has a GoFundMe campaign to assist him in trying to beat cancer.
Oh.
His insurance declared it a pre-existing condition, so they denied coverage for it.
Oh, that's bullshit.
A few weeks ago, he actually got a denial letter, and that's when it hit home. They accused him of lying to his first doctors because he told them he had stomach aches. He didn't understand what it was about. Turns out it was cancerous. On the positive side, though, he did open up a GoFundMe asking for help. You can find it now, still open on GoFundMe.com. He needed $110,000 to get the work he needed to, hopefully beat all this. And as of today, which is March 9th, he currently sits at $111,691.
Oh, good.
But of course, the GoFundMe has not closed, and you can still donate. There's no donor rewards in this one, like in Kickstarters or anything. It's literally just handing over money to help a guy who
Is dying.
Yeah, he didn't do anything wrong. He just needs help. And now at 110,000, I think he can get in the first stages of help if he catches this early. That may be all he needs, but who knows? He might need more.
Yeah.
So if you have a little bit of time, go to GoFundMe, plug in the name Brandon Boyer. You will find his GoFundMe regarding his cancer treatment. And I had to bring this up because this is one of those better stories where people actually put money behind somebody just to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm crying now.
sorry,
No, it's fine.
it's time changes and waking up early and happy stories. Stop it, Jeremy! Stop. I have one final piece of video game news. Glendale apparently was sitting on a treasure trove, and I'm actually mad to have driven through this town so many times and nobody told me. There's a state law that forced Glendale to hold on to dozens of vintage arcade machines that don't apply to video games. In other words, somebody misread a state statute that said that an arcade that closed, because an arcade closed and the state or the city of Glendale inherited all these machines, that they couldn't sell them. So they've been sitting in a storage facility for about 3 years. There's more than 50 games here that the council is getting ready to auction off. This includes 2 Miss Pac-Mans, a Galaga game, and several others. All stand-up machines.
Wow.
Pretty nifty, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Dude, I can't tell you how long it's been since I played Galaga.
Well, the games and the arcade in downtown Glendale that were filled were bought for $1 million by a special city-related fund. Somebody was trying to renovate in Glendale. And as you remember, in recent years, because of financial problems and everything, all those redevelopment funds in California kind of vanished. And I think it has to do with that high-speed rail nonsense as well. But in 2012, after some legal battles and political back and forth, Sacramento lawmakers scrapped redevelopment agencies through the state and froze the assets. That includes the arcade machines that were in storage. Now, the freeze has finally let up, and Glendale kept all the equipment in the former arcade, and when renovations started on the structure, because it's going to be a new museum of neon art, all the machines were put in storage. Their value ranges from $1,000 to $9,000 each. And Glendale finally got word from the Capitol that the Department of Finance was only interested in the sale of property, land and buildings, are now up to the city of Glendale to get rid of. There's going to be an auction held at an unknown date, and this includes Galaga, Miss Pac-Man, a maze game, Extreme Hunting 2, a 2-seat sit-down racer called Initial D Arcade Stage Version 3. Now, once the appraisal is done on these machines, they're going to go through a few options. The problem is that several people have already come forward interested in some of the machines, and a few people have come forward with interest in all of the machines.
Ooh, wow.
So there may not be an auction, or if there is, it may be out of my range. The complete catalog of games has a combined value of roughly $100,000.
Wow.
Yep, I'm out.
So you're finding a way to get $100,000 now?
Something like that. Okay, let's see. From there, we'll move into Marvel media news. First off is that the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game may have accidentally dropped a spoiler about the Amazing Spider-Man 2 the movie.
Oh.
As part of the promotional video for the game, Stan Lee himself is the narrator of the video and says a multi-billion-dollar corporation founded by Norman Osborn recently inherited by his only son, Harry.
Yep, spoiler.
Yeah. Right after that, the plot development is made even more concrete when a voiceover from a local news announcer in the game says Norman Osborn has died. Oops. That was one of those things where you should have kept your trailer under wraps a little longer.
Yeah.
And last week we also discussed how there were rumors about the directors and writers being shopped around for Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kevin Feige, you know him as the Grand Master of Marvel movies for Disney?
Mm-hmm.
He confirmed some rumors, but he shut down others. In other words, yes, they are looking for a director. But according to him, the list of people that have been brought up in news stories, they haven't even talked to. Uh-oh. Yeah, he reported that all the names that were listed were all wrong. And according to him, there's only one criteria to be the director or writer of this. Do something that we think is really cool.
That's a good criteria.
Yeah. Feig also said that when it comes to a star of the film, quote, a movie star is not required, but that doesn't mean a movie star wouldn't be great, unquote. So there it is. They are working on Doctor Strange, but all the details we thought we had, we did not have. The actor that was revealed last month as being Wolfgang von Strucker, let me see, Thomas Kretschmann.
Mm-hmm.
He actually said that he has signed a multi-film deal with Marvel.
Ooh.
So I believe he has a part in the Winter Soldier, but after that, he's going to reappear at some point.
Hmm.
Now, I shouldn't call that a done deal, because the Disney arm of Marvel seems to make it a habit of signing people for multiple movies, just in case they need them. I mean, so far, all of them have come to light. They fulfilled all their contractual obligations and then re-signed them again. But I don't know if you can actually plan to put Wolfgang von Strucker in that many films. He wouldn't exactly match up well with the Hulk.
No.
No.
And there's a new TV spot that was released for Captain America Winter Soldier. A 1-minute spot that it showed a lot of the things that we've come to already. Except I found an additional clip that's 4 minutes long that actually seems to involve one of the first full scenes of the movie. It involves Captain America talking to the Black Widow. I think we've seen it in the first trailer where she's talking about his dating habits right now.
Yeah.
It actually extends that scene to after he jumps out of the plane, hits the water, and starts taking down people. It was kind of an interesting fight scene because he came across 2 goons on the ship, and he hit one like twice with that shield. Once when he was on the ground. He knocks he throws the disc, knocks the poor fool down, catches it, hits a guy in the face with it, turns around, throws it at the guy in the ground, like right into his midsection, and catches it again. One of those.
A bit brutal.
There was an additional scene of the Black Widow doing her thing down in the hold. Now, have you guys been keeping up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yep.
I have not seen this week's episode.
Okay, because that's in the news.
Yeah.
Oh, goddamn.
Well, Phil Coulson found out what exactly was injected into him at the very least to increase his longevity and do the, make the brain surgery that they put him on feasible.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, what he found was the upper half of some kind of large, and I mean large, humanoid, blue-skinned humanoid, which is where they get the fluid and the magic serum that they pumped into him.
Yep.
Now, that's creating a lot of questions as to what exactly that was, because they didn't explore that at all. And I came up blank, and unfortunately, it was just one of those cases where this end of the Marvel Universe I should have known, but I'm not very familiar with, so it escaped me. Yahoo TV, of all people, actually was talking to a few people and put together a couple of ideas as to what this blue skin thing could be.
Yeah, my bet still remains on the Kree.
That's one item. The alien race at birth Captain Marvel and was responsible for a few of the worst things that's happened in the Marvel Universe recently. Or I should say in the past. They're really coming to the forefront now as Marauders. The other theory, you aware what the second possibility of this is? Actually, there's 3 possibilities. I mentioned
Ice Giants?
No, actually, Atlanteans. Or more specifically, Lemurians. Yeah. Remember, Namor and Namora are aberrant. Most Atlanteans are blue-skinned.
Oh, yeah.
But the third possibility that's been kind of whispered about but hasn't been confirmed is this could also be an Inhuman.
Oh.
One of the genetically enhanced humans that the Kree left behind.
Right.
So, somebody else did point out that there's going to be Kree soon in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and this could just be the first shot.
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm still backing the Kree.
Well, I did know that it seems like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be involved in the larger Marvel universe, not as players, but because they've recently started adding the subtitle to the series Uprising, and I think that's in reference to Captain America, Black Widow, and the Falcon going rogue and trying to kick S.H.I.E.L.D.'s ass. So it looks like they may keep the series in time with what else is going on in the universe.
Well, that makes sense,
actually
especially since the tie-in with the Thor movie.
Yeah.
Or aftermath of said movie.
Well, yeah, fair enough.
Well, how about this for Marvel movie news? You know, Gravity won a bunch of Oscars. Didn't win the big ones, but won a bunch.
Yeah.
It's a big movie. You know, its DVD sales are doing pretty damn well. Here's the odd thing. It hit DVD recently. It came in behind a Marvel movie in DVD sales.
Really?
Which
Thor:
one?
The Dark World debuted at number 1 on the Nielsen Video Scan First Alert chart, which tracks overall Blu-ray and DVD sales.
Huh.
Gravity
sold 57% as many copies as The Dark World.
Wow,
That doesn't surprise me
57.
at all. I mean, I loved Gravity, but I'd rather see Thor more often than Gravity.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, they sold nearly twice as many DVDs as Gravity did. Which is just kind of really weird, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with Thor: The Dark World, but I mean, when you compare the two, that's just really out there to me. But then again, unfortunately, the way they put it together, you know, you almost have to collect the movies as much as you collect the comics. Now, there was news that may have put certain Marvel plans on hold when it comes to their movies. And I'm surprised none of you have actually tried to tell me yet that Scarlett Johansson is pregnant.
Whoa.
Didn't know.
Oh,
Well, she's not
Yeah.
just pregnant. As of when this story broke in the middle of the week, she's 5 months pregnant.
Wow.
she's been keeping a secret.
Yep.
Yeah, word is that they're actually accelerating whatever scene she has in Age of Ultron to finish them before she has some serious showing. That's not a bad thing per se. I mean, you can't. The unfortunate thing is they can't write her out of the movie because Joss Whedon made it very clear in prior interviews. The Black Widow is an integral part of Age of Ultron.
Yeah. She's getting a big role in that.
Yeah, she's very central. But remember, in the last couple of weeks, we also talked about how they were very interested in a solo female film for Marvel, either Black Widow or some other character. Well, unfortunately, those plans I think would have to be put on hold,
Yeah, at least involving Black Widow.
or at least involving Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, as Black Widow. Well, honestly, changing her out for a new Black Widow at this point would be
It wouldn't be
unadvisable.
It wouldn't be.
Yeah.
You can't argue that at some point they're going to have to do this. I mean,
Yeah.
the unfortunate truth is actors actually age, whereas comic book characters don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yep.
especially if you're Captain America.
Yeah. You know, this may not be a Terrence Howard situation. They might replace her not because they hate her, but just because necessity says they will.
Yeah.
And I grant you, Steve, you're right. That would not earn them a whole lot of goodwill when it comes to the movie going public. But again, not being dickish, but it is inevitable that sooner or later some of these actors are going to be swapped.
True enough. But I don't think now is a good time.
Well,
Well,
they did pretty early on with War Machine.
Well, remember, Terrence Howard was apparently a dick. I had apparently in there because he keeps saying it's his agent's fault, it's Robert Downey Jr.'s fault, it's the director's fault, it's the studio's fault. When it's everybody's fault but yours, usually it's your fault.
Stop pointing fingers.
Well, the last bit of Marvel media news I have is another piece of Age of Ultron news. There's a South Korean actress named Kim Soo-hyun who's apparently been signed, and Walt Disney Company Korea has confirmed it, but nobody said what her role is. She won't say it either. She's being very tight-lipped. An official said regarding the film, quote, "It would be a spoiler, so we can't tell you which character Kim Soo-hyun will play. Marvel always prohibits telling too much about the story. Her character is already decided and the scene is already written, so we cast Kim Soo-hyun, but we can't let you know about her character. We can only say that her character is a substantial supporting role," unquote. You know, she's apparently also a comic book fan. She enjoys the movies and she thinks they're great. She's been in several Korean dramas, nothing I'm really aware of myself. And filming on the movie starts in the spring. So there's a chance that Scarlett Johansson may have already filmed her scenes and is done. But at the same time, it's a curiosity in looking at her. There is a multitude of things she could actually be. I have no idea. I am not aware of any Avengers that's a lady Asian. She could be Spider-Woman.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
I mean, some people would argue, you know, wouldn't she be Sony and Spider-Man? Well, fortunately, the character is not anywhere in Spider-Man's list of characters in general.
No, yeah. The name is similar, the concept and everything else, no.
Yeah, even the powers are dissimilar.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they mean by supporting character, but the other thing is though there's a multitude of villains she could be as well.
True.
So that's as far as I can get into that. We'll move into DC media news, which is actually rather substantial. I actually have more media news than I have actual comic book news this week, which kind of disgusts me. The first one is that a new DC All Access, their video podcast put out by DC itself, they reviewed that there's a new Catwoman for Infinite Crisis. Infinite Crisis is their MMOBA.
Right.
So apparently there's a new Catwoman coming out for that one. I haven't seen the video myself, simply because, Batman and his supporting cast are not really my biggest Jones. Which, speaking of, the Gotham series they were working on, they've officially cast both Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle for the show. The young Bruce Wayne is being played by David Mazouz, whose latest role was the young autistic boy in Touch with Kiefer Sutherland.
Haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I've seen the ads. He's the one that's being cast as Bruce Wayne. And Carmen Bicondova is Selina Kyle. I don't know Bicondova myself. She's an interesting-looking girl. She's... Actually, it doesn't say she's done anything else prior. Selina Kyle is described as a teenage orphan and skilled street thief who is very dangerous when cornered. It's unknown whether or not Bicondova has been trying to get the role for a while now, because apparently on all of her Twitter accounts she adds a hashtag #JustBeACat to a lot of them. So we're not sure. Nobody's sure if she was auditioning or if she actually just enjoys cats that much. I don't know if a young Selina Kyle makes me more interested in the show. And they've also added Drew Powell, who's been Reed Smith on The Mentalist, as a guest starring recurring role. He's going to play an original character called Butch Gilzian, who's a second in command to sadistic gangster boss Fish Mooney.
Who's female.
Yeah, which means he'll be below Jada Pinkett Smith, but above Robin Lord Taylor, who's playing Oswald Cobblepot.
That's a funny name.
Yeah. Butch Gilzian, Oswald Cobblepot, Fish Mooney. You have to be a serious motherfucker to make me fear somebody named Fish.
Hey.
No, it's all one word. Fish Mooney. You have to say it all at once. Like a
Fish
picnic.
Mooney. Fish Mooney. Put that on your letterhead, Fish. There's a 3-minute Arrow trailer that was put out saying not all villains are equal. The reason why they say that, of course, this trailer involves the debut of the Suicide Squad. Their versions of Deadshot, Bronze Tiger, and somebody else whose name I can never make out. I still like the idea of Michael Jai White as Bronze Tiger. I just wish if they were going to do a Suicide Squad that Warner Brothers would allow them to use some actual serious villains for this instead of the C-list. I know Deadshot's been in a few games and cartoons recently, but he is still just not a major player simply by the fact that he can never take down a superhuman. It's like Bullseye in the Marvel Universe. He sounds really mean when he goes up against somebody like Daredevil. Then when you throw him in against Avengers villains, fucking pussy.
Yeah.
Aww.
Sorry, but Bullseye...
everyone can be Batman.
Yeah, Bullseye stood on the Dark Avengers. The only mark he could hit was the Sentry's wife. Everybody else beat the shit out of him.
And it's pretty arguable that hitting the Sentry's wife was probably not his defining moment.
Yeah. I mean, after all, Deadpool parked a truck on his legs.
That doesn't sound pleasant.
Oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't a truck. It was a monster truck.
Even worse.
His whole job for Norman Osborn was to kill Deadpool, and he just failed spectacularly. And at one point, he thought he lured him out into this open road, and he was just waiting for him to appear. Next thing he knows, his truck comes screaming down the way, runs over his legs, stops. Deadpool gets out, and as he's screaming, barking about how his legs are broken, all of a sudden Deadpool holds up a chainsaw and says, "Hey, bud, need a hand?" We also have a gallery of images about the Suicide Squad and their appearance in Arrow. So we'll add those, and you can take a look at those at your leisure. Which you may have done before, but I'm not 100%. Oh, no, we discussed the one picture before. That's right. Discuss how it looked like a bad cosplay picture. Constantine actually has some new roles that have been cast in it. There's a female lead being played by Lucy Griffiths, who's been a veteran on True Blood. So she may be some kind of love interest on Constantine. And let's see. They've also cast Harold Pinio, who's going to play Manny, an authoritative angel assigned to watch over Constantine and has the power to step into other people's bodies. Apparently he's meant to observe, but he apparently will step in and get involved if he can save a life. So he's the watcher of the show. Oh, Harold Pinio, I mean, Steve and I will know him best as the role of the crippled prisoner on Oz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No wheelchair in this one, but he is in it. And The Flash has added another character to the TV show. In the comics, there's a current character named David Singh, who's in Barry Allen's corner, but apparently comes just short of knowing who the Flash is. He's a regular in the comics, however, this has been cast by Patrick Sabangui, who's only scheduled right now for the pilots. But if the show takes off and the character is compelling, they have opened the door to having him as a supporting character in future episodes. And last bit of DC media news I have is that Zack Snyder says that Man of Steel sequel explodes Batman and Superman's universes. Says, quote, move... What?
I think it's got to be a little bit more specific than that because my mind's going in 10 different directions with that. Some of them are not nice.
Well, he says the movie, quote, literally takes the Man of Steel and Batman universes and explodes them. And he says filming starts in a month or so. Quote, the new Batsuit and the Superman suit. It wasn't even with the actors, right? It was just to see them. I was standing there and they were standing next to each other and I was like, guys, someone take a picture. This has never happened before. We slightly dork out like, are you kidding me? Unquote. The fuck does that mean?
I have no idea.
So he sees the suits for the movie and he's just kind of nerding up. That's all well and special, but that doesn't mean dick for the movie.
Yeah.
There's still this little thing that a lot of DC movies tend to lack. It's a complicated word. Writing! For God's sakes, just write the movie first, then make sure it looks good. God, I mean, porno parodies of superheroes have more story than I've seen in some recent DC films.
Truth.
And the Wonder Woman actually looks like Wonder Woman. But it's a porno, so of course she's not wearing pants.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we need to stop there.
I'm going to get in trouble. In general media news, Vincent D'Onofrio has been cast in the villain of Jurassic World, and he's not a dinosaur. I don't know what else to I don't know what else to say. I got the story off of IO9 that he's been cast as the main villain in Jurassic World, the sequel to Jurassic Park. There's no details on who the character is and why he wants to destroy dinosaurs from the park. Or ride them, is whatever his motivation is. But yeah, it's not the dinosaurs that are the villain in this movie, it's Vincent D'Onofrio. Which is kind of interesting because in the story they added a picture of him in one of the first roles I knew he was in, and I didn't know it was him. He's the guy who played the muscled mechanic in Adventures in Babysitting.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah, the one that was mistaken for Thor?
Yeah.
That's him.
Huh.
Weird, right? Oh, well. In news that's going to matter more to V than any of us, Matt Smith, he played the 11th Doctor for Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
He's apparently already set to make a cameo role in the new series.
Oh, goody.
According to reports, he's 31 years old, and he's agreed to get back into his tweed jackets and regrow his floppy hair for a short return to the show this autumn. He's in discussions with the showrunner Stephen Moffat to give him another chance. And when I say another chance, obviously I don't mean put him back in it permanently, just to have some kind of role where he's time traveled, and there he is! But apparently Peter Moffat is very keen on Matt signing off and being back in it for a little while.
That would be pretty awesome. I really liked Matt Smith.
Well,
or rather, his character.
The word is that the role he's being cast in is that the companion from the last, half season, Clara, is having trouble accepting Capaldi in the role as a doctor, so Matt Smith shows up to explain to her what regeneration is about and show to her that that is him.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Well, he may not be side by side with her. It may be a phone call from the past, basically. Which sometimes happens in the show.
Indeed. Timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly.
Yeah. There was a deleted scene from Who Framed Roger Rabbit that recently came to light. And there's an excellent reason why this was never added in the movie. Because it's fucking creepy. Now, the scene, I will add a link to it, which is on YouTube. And it's horrifying because what happens is that the Weasels apparently grab Bob Hoskins, who's playing Eddie Valiant in the movie, take him to Toontown, and they tune him. What they do is they paint him with this bizarre pig mask. That's, of course, on top of his head. You know, Bob Hoskins' face is supposedly coming out of the mouth. It's smiling. It has its hat on. It's really weird. He goes home, takes benzene and some turpentine, and makes like homemade dip to wash it off. So you see the silhouette of him in the shower curtain ripping this thing off his head. And then the next thing you see is his feet in the bottom of the bathtub as this ink with a pair of eyes looking in all directions is suddenly washed down the drain.
Oh, wow.
It is really bizarre.
That is creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll add the link. You can watch it if you want, but it was just one of those things that as soon as I saw it, just freaked the fuck out of me.
That would freak me out, I think, and I don't freak out a lot.
Well, how about this? They finally released, after the Super Bowl spot, the first full trailer to Transformers Age of Extinction.
Yeah, now I want to watch it now.
I know, it's 2.5 minutes long, and I've been on the fence for a while. Robot dinosaurs have kept my interest in, kind of seeing in the end of the trailer Optimus Prime land a haymaker on Grimlock in Tyrannosaurus mode. Yeah,
That's pretty awesome.
It's practically bribery.
Unfortunately, I think I've started developing my own theories on everything. It's hate it. I'll watch it. But I still hate it.
I'll add a link because it is a pretty nifty trailer. There was another deleted scene I came across. This looks good. There was a funeral scene that wasn't added into the season 5 of the Venture Brothers.
Ooh.
Really?
It's mostly animatics and storyboard stills, but they kept the audio to it, where the Action Man and Hank Venture were talking as they were burying the shoebox-sized body of Dr. Entman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they talked a little bit back and forth. There was a few additional jokes by Brainulo about how he found out whom Team Venture had a crush on, which apparently was a humongoloid. So we'll add that link. Do you guys use Netflix?
Yes.
No.
Did you know that there's a new scam involving Netflix?
No.
Yes. I've heard about it.
Yeah, there's a scheme floating over the internet that could cost you up to about $400 in your identity.
Whoa.
What happens is a group of scammers pretending to be Netflix tech, they'll send you a phony email, which sends you to a fake Netflix login, and sends a phony notice that your account's been suspended, gets you to call the tech support on this fake website. And when they have you on the phone, they persuade you to download software that allows them to crawl through your computer for anything of interest. Then, when they're all done with it, because you still think it's tech support, they send you a bill.
That's
wow.
fucked up.
That's a very elaborate phishing scheme.
It is. But, obviously if you can get $400 out of a few people, it's worth a website and phone calls. So if you get an email that says there's something wrong with your Netflix account, don't click the link. Type in the address.
Yeah.
Most of the time they call you also, so...
Well, they get you to call them. So it makes it even harder to find them. Have any of you played The Last of Us?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
It is a big game on the PS3 that's won several awards. It was done by Naughty Dog, who's making Watch Dogs. No, they didn't do Watch Dogs. I'm sorry. But, the game is just really well received. Damn near perfect ratings across the board. They're getting a movie. Screen Gems is working on the script for the Last of Us movie. Of course, when they're working on a script, obviously they have no stars or no director yet. But it's being done by Ghost House Pictures, which is Sam Raimi's production company.
Oh, nice.
So we may get to see insane mutants on the screen yet again. And these ones don't have optic blasts. And the last bit of video news I have is that Sin City: A Dame to Kill For, the sequel movie, the trailer is out to it. It's being done by director Robert Rodriguez. If it's of your interest, check out the trailer. It's a minute and a half long. I'll add a link. I'm not watching it simply because it's not of my personal interest.
I love Sin City.
I couldn't get into it.
I can see that. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, well, I've also not a Robert Rodriguez fan. I liked his early work. His later stuff just never got to me. Well, from there we'll move into Marvel comic news, and there's only 2 pieces of story. The first one. How would you like a promotional item for a comic to be an eye?
What?
A literal eye?
An eyeball. Or a bouncy ball in the shape of an eyeball. Because this is Marvel's idea for promoting the original Sin storyline where the Watcher is shot and his all-seeing eye's been stolen. And you walk into certain comic shops and you can get a limited edition in May bounce ball with the Watcher's eye on it.
That's for a special type of fan.
It's a little morbid. I mean, it's not colored like an eye exactly. It's a little pale compared to what you would expect, but at the same time, I don't want this looking at me. Imagine,
Sounds interesting.
Imagine a one sick fuck that goes to like 3 comic book shops so he can get more of it and just lines them up on his windowsill. Now I can see all.
Like I said, a special kind of fan.
Really? And I'm sorry.
It suits my morbid side.
Well, yeah, because you're not entertained unless one of us is hurt. I've seen it. You know, sometimes we bang our toes against the desk, and she runs off and grabs something to entertain herself with as we howl in pain.
Schadenfreude.
Actually, it's more like bull and shit. The only other piece of Marvel comic news I have is that there's been a correction, and Marvel will be at WonderCon this April.
Okay.
Originally, we were told that they wouldn't be at the second biggest convention in Comic-Con cycle during the year. Turns out they decided they do have more than enough to go for it and will appear at the convention. So they will have a booth. And that's good news for me. I'm going to WonderCon. DC comic news, I only have one story, unfortunately. And that is because I did not know this occurred. After the death of Robin, the Batman and Robin series has had a group of other guest stars. You know, Nightwing, Batwoman, Batgirl. Lately, he's been palling around with Two-Face. The reason why this is news is because as of the 28th issue of Batman and Two-Face, Two-Face apparently blew his own head off.
What?
What?
He shot himself in the temple.
Apparently he got a bad coin flip.
According to the writer of the book, Peter Tomasi, what you saw was what happened. He's apparently making it into the idea that this was not a dodge. This was not a trick. You know, Two-Face actually shot himself.
Well, kind of. If it's anything like the movie character, he's kind of a tortured character, so that makes sense to me. But.
Well, I'm not familiar with how things changed in the New 52, but he may have also known Two-Face may have also known Batman's secret identity in this one.
Yeah. So, panel on that.
So it's all very bizarre. I mean, you wouldn't expect a guy that could be that close to actually winning everything to actually kill himself. It's very strange.
Well, I think that's they're trying to really hit on Bruce Wayne hard. Like, shit you do, it's not always end up good. I mean, he lost a son, now he lost a friend.
Now he needs to find out that Selena Kyle gave him herpes and then the whole thing is ruined.
Ew.
I tried to come up with something cat-themed, but there's no cat-sounding sexual diseases. Now that I've said that out loud, I'm almost ashamed. I'm not, but almost.
Not as bad as Batkid, but...
You want to explore my bat cave?
I don't know. I'm still proud of Sloppy Seconds.
I wonder if he carries a bat condom.
Oh, the Bat Lube.
I'm sorry, Dick. I'm not going to give you any settlement money for your horrible psychological damage or whatever. Speak to my bad attorney. Let's see. In general comic news, there's a new series coming out by Image that has my attention. It's a new series called Shudder. The story is about Kate Christopher, who's trying to get to know the world where she's surrounded by magical and enhanced beings better through the lens of her camera. It is it's an interesting. Well, sort of. It's not exactly a photo book. It's a comic book series about a girl who's. I mean, imagine our reactions if we were suddenly stuck in a world full of superhumans. She wants to go out and see them and get to know it better. It's a juxtaposition of the usual superhero comic because now here's a normal person surrounded by all this extraordinary stuff, and she's like a young person of college age. She wants to see it. She wants to understand it. This series is supposed to be a mixture of urban fantasy, globe-trekking adventure, and it's inspired indirectly by a quote from Alan Moore about life.
Sounds interesting. I've always thought that in a lot of supernatural type movies and stuff, people react not the way that we would react. Like, if I saw a supernatural thing, my first reaction would be cool! And then, oh god.
There'll be a moment of, nerdgasm before he's like, oh shit, it's going to kill me.
You have to admit that when it comes to the larger companies, that's one thing that's kind of lacking is a personal touch. I mean, I could only imagine my reaction to somebody walking around in front of me with wings, I'm sure would be a lot of staring, and I think I'd follow this person on foot for about 4 blocks before I realize I'm not headed where I thought I was going to go. Meanwhile...
That happens right before you do that weird look, like, go the fuck away.
Yeah, meanwhile, the Marvel and DC universes, you notice that a lot of the populace, when they see these unusual people, their reaction is usually closer to, hey, get out of my way, I'm busy here.
Well, they're clearly jaded and used to it.
Not just jaded, I just don't think the writers really planned for the what would happen with normal people. I mean, there was even a section of town called Mutant Town where all you saw was a bunch of people, with all kinds of, not deformities, but just physical mutations walking around, and there was no normal people on the sidelines going, look, honey, that one breathes water. So, this has my interest because, yeah, it's the other end of the spectrum. And the only other thing I have right now in general comic news is that the unofficial San Diego Comic-Con blog, which you can find at sdccblog.com, they are planning an open registration show during what they assume to be the date of registration on March 15th. They say assume because Comic-Con usually only announces their registration a couple days beforehand. However, they've closed the member ID sign-up, so that's usually a sign that open registration starts soon. They plan on holding an open podcast show during when they assume it'll be, and I gotta agree it's probably going to happen soon since we've already heard that hotel registration starts in early April. And I can tell how interested you guys are in that.
I'm not.
Thrilled.
Okay, then we'll move into Japan news.
Oh shit.
We have a section for Japan news now.
We do. It used to be called anime news, but some of the stuff that comes out of Japan is just as interesting. How would you like to be able to lay down with your favorite comic book or video game character in Japan without a Daikamura?
No.
You may not have a choice. The Oculus Rift, somebody has gotten their hands on it, is doing a beta right now of I guess you could say a sim, where you're lying down next to a sleeping Hatsune Miku from Vocaloid. This is being done by Tsukuba University researchers who developed the technology for hospital patients who find themselves immobilized. That's not who's going to use this.
No.
I like how I got that in stereo from both of the males in the room. I hail to the no, that's not what's being used for. All you need is like some kind of life-size dummy, and you know what these guys are going to do with this.
Oh, yeah. It was a matter of time before someone twisted the technology.
Yeah. But apparently there's several variations where you can find the person's or the character sleeping next to you, laying next to you, or possibly even standing over your bed as you wake up. Oh, I would freak the hell out if I opened my eyes and there's some anime chick with eyes like, the size of saucers staring at me.
especially if you weren't expecting it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be the time where my conscious brain takes over, and as I'm opening up my eyes, I'm just hoping I'm still dreaming of some sort. It shouldn't be real.
I don't know if I would be... If dreaming about that would be better.
At least I know I'm a conscious dreamer. I know when I dream.
Yeah.
I know when things are getting too effed up, and if my conscious mind comes around and I'm still staring at that, it's like, oh god, I need to see a doctor. Now I have to walk backwards a little bit because the last time we talked about Chinese smog, there was that story that they apparently had to televise sunrise so you could see it from the ground, which wasn't that wasn't true. It turns out somebody took a picture of an ad for travel in the middle of the smog, which included a sunrise. So that wasn't true. That doesn't mean things in there aren't bad, though. There's been more recent pictures released of China's smog, as somebody is describing as like nuclear winter. Now, the reason why this is like nuclear winter is because a professor with a Chinese agricultural university has said that seedlings usually take about 20 days to grow when they're tended well, water, earth, and all that. Because of the extreme smog levels, some seeds are now taking up to 2 months to grow. He says,
That's no good.
Yeah, he says greenhouses will be the first to be hit, but they're by no means the last. Quote, they will be lucky to live at all. Now almost every farm is caught in a smog panic. A large number of representatives of the agricultural companies have suddenly showed up at academic meetings on photosynthesis in recent months and sought desperately for solutions. Our overseas colleagues were shocked by the phenomenon because in their countries, nothing like this has ever happened, unquote. Therefore, the effect of all this smog on plants is similar to nuclear winter.
Huh. Well, there's a science study there.
Yeah.
There's another researcher from the Chinese Academy of Sciences Institute of Remote Sensing and Digital Earth. He has less reassuring news via satellite that the authorities may actually know how much of an impact the smog is having, but are keeping the results secret to avoid panic. It is kind of scary because while China and the U.S., our country and theirs, have a lot of ugly diplomatic relations, I don't wish harm on anybody. And frankly, this could be an example where their leaders have failed on such a fundamental level, they could really be killing themselves in the short term.
Yeah, not to mention the rest of us, slowerly.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, that's another part of the story, because right next to this was another story that Chinese smog is blowing into Japan. That's why this is in this section of news.
Damn.
A thick cloud of it this winter prompted the Japanese government to warn people in affected areas not to venture out lest they die.
Ooh.
Now, I'm sure that's not literally what would happen. I'm sure you would just be really sick and possibly catch some diseases from it. But they warn people that they might die walking out there simply because, it's that thick and there could be some effects of people who have breathing disorders. And the pictures of what was occurring in Japan were very similar to what looked like was going on in China. That's how strong it is. There's a couple of maps were released of, in the foreground as they showed the pictures in the background of a barely visible city in Japan. And this stuff blew over a section that looked like it cut a swath right through the center of the island. Some of it, there were scenes that went from Nagata and Osaka that resemble Beijing. That sucks balls.
Something has to be done about that. I don't know what, but...
I don't know either, because China and Japan have had a rocky relationship since World War II and Japan's imperial occupation of China, which was nothing to be proud of, obviously. But the unfortunate part is that ever since the parties went their own ways after the World War, nobody has ever really forgiven each other for their problems. And I can't say this is necessarily an act of war, but considering the aggressive nature of the stances of the two countries to each other, this could be one of those incidents where somebody accidentally fires a rocket.
Ooh.
Accidentally in quotes?
Accidentally in, Dr. Evil air quotes, yes. So this is something that needs to be solved both diplomatically and immediately. Because I believe a small segment of what China produces actually blows over to this end of the U.S. I think it's part of the issue in the Acton area, which has the worst smog in the U.S.
Yeah, I believe you're correct.
Okay, now before I piss people really off, I'm going to move on to the next story, if that's okay with everybody.
Go for it.
The last piece of Japan news I have, believe it or not, is about a new form of heavy metal. It's a band and a phenomenon called baby metal. Have you guys heard of this? Because it's been all over my news feed lately.
No.
Okay, I sent you guys a link, and watch your external speakers because you don't want it screaming through. What it is you've got 3 Japanese idols, like from an idol group, and they sing like they normally do. They dance. They have cute little outfits. But instead of backing them up with pop tunes, you have a heavy metal band behind them.
Okay.
It's rather bizarre to hear these thrashing metal riffs, these heavy double bass drum beats, while 3 singers are talking about how much they love chocolate. The worst part is, as bizarre as it sounds, it almost works. Now, unfortunately, though, if you show this off to any heavy metal club, they're more likely to laugh you out than take a listen to it. But it's one of those things that's not entirely bad, it just needs a little more work, and this could probably be a very serious phenomenon. What do you guys think?
I kind of like this, actually.
Yeah, I've listened to 2 of their videos. There's already 3 of them on YouTube. And, like I said, it's compelling. I think it's missing a little bit of something. I'm not quite sure what. But this could be really on the edge of exploding if it's given the right push.
Yeah, usually my problem with metal is the vocal.
You guys can look more of that up at as you find interest. I just thought it was really interesting that so many different news outlets were covering baby metal. In general nerd interest news, scientists just revive a 30,000-year-old virus in Siberia.
What?
Oh, that sounds lovely.
This is not the start of a horror movie, not at all.
Actually, it sounds like the beginning of a Michael Crichton movie. But the virus is known as Pithavirus sibericum. It was revived from samples of ancient permafrost. Now, it's a large-scale virus. Because it's prehistoric means it's much bigger, obviously. But the virus apparently is not infectious to humans or animals. It affects amoebas.
Mm-hmm.
Which is...
I never really thought about amoebas getting viruses.
Yeah. I mean, that's initially good news. I mean, there's always the thought that it could mutate and actually latch onto us. But apparently, in addition to being very large, it's very tough. According to National Geographic, the hardiness, along with a favorable environment, likely helped the newly discovered specimen stay intact for thousands of years. Viruses are often destroyed or rendered inactive by a number of factors, including light and biochemical dehydration. Among known viruses, the giant viruses tend to be very tough and almost impossible to break open.
Like, you have to use a chisel?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is, why'd you have to open it up and revive it? Couldn't you just study it and bury it? Because this is how certain horror movies start. We're going to start bleeding green stuff from the eyes, and all of a sudden everyone's running around screaming, trying to bite each other. So, while it's interesting, it's a scientific breakthrough, put it back!
It's science. You know that scientists can't do that.
Look, if you're going to claim that's science, I still need to get a measuring tape for your clitoris.
Oh.
Science! Oh, how about this for science? There's an exoskeleton that's being built by a Perceptual Robotics Laboratory, or PERCO, at Pisa Secola Sapore Santa Ana. It can lift 100 pounds in each hand.
Okay.
It's an exoframe called the body extender. It can lift a combined 220 pounds by hand. That's pretty significant when you think about heavy labor.
Yeah,
but I
actually.
think the military has already built something that could do almost 4 times that.
Yeah, however, it has hooks for hands. This one has hands.
Yeah.
So they're actually much
That's-
closer in the articulation.
Can it walk?
It's strapped to the back of a person, so yes. It's being developed specifically for manufacturing, therapeutic, and military purposes. I love the idea of this being developed for therapeutic purposes, because if you come at me with this thing and offer me a massage, I will run. See a fat man run. The only way you see a fat man run, I'll outrun the Flash. And the Hubble telescope picked up an interesting image of a galaxy being ripped to shreds.
Ooh.
There's a spiral galaxy 200 million light years from here that's speeding along in the universe, and as it trucks along, there's intense blue streaks coming away from it. Those are young stars being torn away by the galaxy. You almost wonder if this is how new items in the universe are seeded, is by these galaxies occasionally shredding as they travel. Then again, I wonder with the survivability of these systems, considering they'll be the only thing in their section of the universe for a bit. It's an interesting picture to see this blue galaxy, streaming a lot of energy behind it. The cluster is bending. It says ESO 137001. The galaxy's gravitational pull is strong enough to hold on to the majority of its dust, but some displaced brown streaks of dust are visible. I wonder if it's just a young galaxy. Oh well. And Walmart may have the concept truck of the next wave of fuel-efficient semis. It's called the Wave concept truck. It looks like something that should be able to transform and destroy the world. But they actually have a fuel-efficient truck that includes a steering wheel flanked by LED screens. In place of conventional gauges, it has a range-extended electric powertrain. And to reduce weight, the entire truck is made of carbon fiber, including the trailer.
That's exciting.
So,
I'm not being sarcastic. That is actually exciting.
well, it gets 13 miles per gallon on a recent cross-country trip. Peterbilt and Cummins made a truck that gets 10.7 miles per gallon. That doesn't sound great until you realize that most semis only get 5 or 6 miles per gallon. So the Wave concept gets over double the mileage. Getting there. Now if we can only make this thing electric.
Right?
Yeah, full electric still doesn't get good enough mileage.
Yeah. Well, in March, Mississippi doctors announced a treatment of an HIV-positive newborn, and it actually cured the child. This week, Los Angeles doctors reported that a second child may have been cured by a similar treatment. I don't know if this would work in full-blown adults, but this means that young children born with HIV, there's a chance that we may have actually found the combination to strip away the HIV and make them perfectly healthy humans.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That means we actually stand a chance of, at least in this country, fully eradicating the disease over the course of a couple generations. Now, there's still obviously some testing done. There's only 2 people. That's not exactly a full sample size. But the other problem is, if we do get it to work and we manage to cure everybody in this country, there's still the idea of how to cure everybody else. These pharmaceutical bastards won't do it unless it's worth their money.
I wonder if they can develop a vaccine. I know they're working on it.
Yeah. You need an aerial introduction system. Sorry, I'm spitballing. V, this is of your interest. There is a distant black hole that is supermassive. It is in quasar, or there was a quasar that was recently pulled into it. It's called RxJ1131-1231. It is 6 billion light years away, and it spins at half the speed of light.
Wow.
Wow.
That is an incredible amount of power. They had a magnified view of this section of space, and because of the pulsar that it recently pulled in, they got a really good look of its relative speed and size. It's a very pretty picture until you realize what it is.
I love black holes. They're fascinating.
Last year, astronomers even calculated the spin of another one at the center of a spiral galaxy, NGC 1365, and that one goes 84% the speed of light. That's scary. What that means is that's 150 billion meters per second. That is an E-ride that I'm sure anybody would pay money to go on if they could get out of it.
Get out of the event horizon.
When they say graviton, they aren't kidding, man. EDAG is a German...
Try again.
I'm sure everybody would love it if anybody from the show listens in Germany. They called it Derman. EDAG is a German design and engineering firm that's been working with car manufacturers for about 4 decades. Okay, they help build systems for cars. Their latest concept is a 3D printed composite passenger cell inspired by turtles.
Turtles?
Yeah. That's only part of the story, though, because the idea that this is done by a 3D printer, that leads credence to the idea that eventually we may be able to 3D print entire production of vehicles. You know, it'd be a lighter material, and an accident would not be the best thing to get stuck in. But at the same time, the fact that they're getting as far as to put together the passenger compartment on a vehicle via 3D printing, man, manufacturing costs in the world could dip dramatically if you could get this to work. You know, cars wouldn't cost near as much in man hours, and that's generally most of what you pay in repairs in manufacturing these days.
Just think, in like 20 years, we might all have a 3D printer and get...
Yeah, there may be no manufacturing plant, just a bunch of people working in different garages to put their shit together.
That's it. I'm looking forward to that personally. I think manufacturing causes a lot of issues.
No doubt of that. And NASA is about to reenact one of the freakiest movies I've ever seen, because they are getting ready to launch a lander that's going to touch down on a moon of Jupiter. Curiosity is set to touch down on Europa by 2030, apparently.
Is that the one that has water on it?
It has.
Or is that Io?
I think it's Titan that had a water-like substance that is methane primarily. They're actually getting ready to land a robotic submarine by 2030 on Europa, which they say is the most likely planetoid in the rest of the solar system to contain some sort of life. Wouldn't it be weird if we actually get there and there's something else?
I actually came across another article that's stating that Europa has more water than Earth.
That's possible. There is a bunch of ice there, but I'm not sure if
Yeah.
it's identified as actual drinkable water.
Well, I mean, ice is water, so, I mean, that counts.
But, like I said, there's ice on Titan that's all methane.
Yeah.
Need to see what this stuff is actually built out of. There's a runaway pulsar that has unleashed the longest X-ray jet in the Milky Way. A corkscrew-shaped trail of high-energy particles being ejected from this pulsar stretches 39 light-years. You know,
That's wow.
yeah, that's 10 times longer than the distance between the sun and its next neighbor.
Wow.
Reach out and touch someone.
Yeah, apparently pulsars emit a continuous beam of radiation due to rapid rotation. This one, instead of spinning it out in a giant spiral, as it's moving through the galaxy, is actually leaving it in a trail. So there's all kinds of weird interstellar things happening. And the last bit of general nerd interest I have is that there is a company called, let me see. Darn it. There's a team of Adafruit and Becky Stern used a 3D printer to create small plastic spikes that are made to be put on top of an LED strip and with magnets can be attached to clothes as they light up in different colors.
That sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, all you need is a 3D printer and an LED strip and a few watch-size batteries to make this work, as well as a few magnets to stick it to clothes. I'll add the YouTube link because she makes it sound devilishly easy, and it sounds like they'll provide the pattern for free. They even give you step-by-step instructions on how to hook up the LED. That's unusually giving for a fashion trend. Then again, it's nerds. They'll give away anything if they think it looks cool.
Yeah.
What the fuck news has been a little varied this week. Thanks to Brandon, I now know that Japanese educational systems are looking for entry-level ninjas to teach kids.
Oh, excellent.
Wait, ninjas?
Ninjas. Hello Work is the Japanese employment service, and they actually have a job posting up for an entry-level ninja to teach elementary school kids at Shinhon Kyoku, or New Japan Education.
Okay.
This company is offering cultural courses that are a little unusual.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, but they actually have the ad posted. They want an entry-level ninja. The job offer lasts until April 30th. Anybody? Anybody? School's open from 10 to 8 and only has 10 employees, and all but one are female.
10 to 8 at night?
10 a.m. to 8 p.m., yeah.
Wow.
They'll offer reimbursement for travel expenses and paid vacation depending on how many days you work.
That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, but knowing that Japan is somewhat xenophobic, you can tell that if a white person shows up to this, they will be thrown the fuck out.
I don't know. Maybe if you won the American Ninja Warrior, they'd maybe.
Or maybe if you wrote all your ninja scrolls in English and said it's written in this mysterious language.
C++.
I don't understand, teacher. This says go to 10.
Oh my.
Now, we all know the Japanese, they have some interesting social quirks where they date 2D characters. I saw a picture version of how the Chinese do this. They apparently take several photos of locations and themselves in different activities, and instead of having a digital avatar, they actually draw in characters on the photos using Photoshop or a similar program.
Huh.
There's a bank of pictures here that I see on Sankaku Complex, including one guy who's apparently laying his head on something on the couch, and he's drawn in a girlfriend, so it looks like he has his head in her lap. This is just too fucking much for me, man. There's other pictures that he's taken of a bathtub, and then he's drawn in the girlfriend and all of her toiletries as she lounges in the tub. And man, they're sad, and then they're sad. And then there's fucking sad. This unfortunately hits all three of it, in my opinion. This is one of the weirder pieces, and it's kind of the first what the fuck item I found from our last recording. There was a man who stabbed his girlfriend's ex-husband with the Master Sword.
Okay.
Yeah?
I love
It's
the
a
confusion.
Master Sword.
I'm surprised you didn't know about this, V. This all happened in Houston. Now, there's a man named Eugene Thompson who is a Legend of Zelda fan. And while he had a fight with his girlfriend, who was separated from her ex-husband, she apparently was so mad she invited over her ex-husband and opened the door for him while Eugene, put himself in the back of the house and closed the door. This man came in, started pounding on the door, so Eugene decided to defend himself, and he's a sword collector and a Legend of Zelda fan, so he had a full-size replica of the Master Sword, Link's sword.
Uh-huh.
This guy opened the door, Eugene stabbed him with a Master Sword.
According to the earliest report I saw, the guy maybe thought that it was, a fake sword or something, so he walked right into it and stabbed himself on it.
He did. As you can imagine, at the end of this, the man went to the hospital with serious injuries, actually. And
But
Eugene,
not before being hit over the head by a flower pot. The first guy. The guy wielding the Master Sword got hit over the head by a flower pot.
Yes. And Eugene's girlfriend made him pack up and leave. I believe he was arrested not long after that.
For what?
Assault with a
Accident.
deadly weapon.
Yeah, whatever.
I bet the lawyers will take care of that.
Yeah. It sounds like a good self-defense.
Fair, but unfortunately, if the guy only had a flower pot, it is kind of disproportionate.
Well, yeah,
I don't
but
know.
if the other guy literally walked into it, I mean that.
Well, he was stabbed twice, so he walked into it and then he stabbed him in the leg, I think, or something like that. But
Yeah, that's assault, unfortunately.
yeah. No, it's not. You're protecting yourself. The other man is the aggressor. You're defending yourself. You're perfectly legally entitled
No,
to do something like that.
well, it all depends on the timing, because if the man already lost the flower pot or didn't have it the first time, that's still brandishing a deadly weapon and assault.
Actually, in Texas, if he was depending on who owned the home.
The girlfriend owns the home.
Yeah, she invited the man in.
Okay,
And
well,
she
in
wanted
that case,
Eugene out.
because you're perfectly allowed to use deadly force
Yeah.
In your own home.
in your own home.
And it wasn't
And
his
he
home.
was a resident of that home. Whether or
Okay,
not
well,
the
in that
girl was
case-
kicking him out, that's all fine and good, but her first response should have been to call the police, not her ex-husband.
Well, if Eugene's name isn't on the home, he's not a resident, he's a guest. Unless he signed a lease.
I don't
Well,
know.
legal
That's
stuff.
a lot of legal stuff that, yeah, but even still, there's one thing between, having him evicted by legal authorities. There's another thing by calling your estranged ex-husband to throw somebody out. If he defended himself because he felt his life was in danger, I see no issues with this.
Yeah, but
She
standard
handled
ground
it
usually
poorly,
applies
in
to
my opinion.
standard ground usually applies to firearms, not the master sword.
Yeah, well, I would assume then that he didn't have a firearm.
Well, it depends. Was his heart meter full? In stranger news, there's a teenager in New Jersey suing her parents for tuition. You guys heard about this one? Because this hit a lot of news.
I have not heard.
glazed over it.
Her name is Rachel Canning, and she and her parents in New Jersey apparently got into an argument. They felt that she was not following her rules because she wanted to go out and hang out with people they didn't approve of. She decided to go out. Now, the reports start varying from there because the parents say she walked out. She says that they threw her out. She's been staying with a friend for about the last 3 weeks. The friend's father put up the money for her to sue her folks for emotional distress and tuition at the private religious school that she goes to. She claims that they stopped paying her bills and won't talk to her. This is kind of polarized certain groups of people who are reading the story, because there's some that feel that, she's a daughter and you got to take care of her, but there's others that say that she walked out and since she's 18, the parents are not entitled to do dick.
I agree with the latter.
I mean, I agree with the latter as well. I'm more of the question as to why the friend's father put up the money to actually have this person sue her parents. I mean, I would think the smart move would be to stay the fuck out of it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have thoughts, but they're not.
Well, she's suing them.
Yeah.
She's suing them for the tuition to her school, potential college earnings, and legal fees. She already had a hearing the middle of this week, which the judge just said, "The fuck."
As he should.
It was. I don't think he denied the case, but I think that they had to refile their motion because he just wasn't going to allow it as it was. So this is still ongoing, unfortunately. Japan often has strange things happening when it comes to sexual trades.
Mm-hmm.
It's happened again. A Shibuya Moyo... In the Shibuya area...
Try again.
There's too much in my mouth. In the Shibuya area, there is a delivery health establishment, which... Delivery health, what that usually means is the minimum of a massage with a happy ending. Minimum. They advertise sex with elementary and middle school girls. What they actually had were adult girls who were short and looked young. Okay? They had full-blown adults in this place. They were recently broken up by police. The problem is the offenses are apparently unrelated to their activities, or to this particular aspect of their services. They weren't using actual elementary schools or middle schoolers. Let's make that very clear.
Right.
Some customers were paying as much as the equivalent of $3,000 US for a, quote, fourth-year course.
Okay, so I have a. People
Yeah.
have inappropriate sexual desires. Does indulging them in a legal fashion that doesn't harm those people, does it make it better, or does it exacerbate the problem?
It's hard for me to say. I'm one of those people that I am titillated by the idea of the Catholic schoolgirl and everything, but it's not the idea of the schoolgirl. It's kind of the uniform that does it for me. I guess this is just technically nothing more than role play if it's adults playing with adults. It's weirder than I would get involved in, but it's still role play.
Yeah.
And the offenses that these people were charged on apparently had nothing to do with the general sexual activity. It's just sometimes the police, the Japanese police have a reputation for being easily bribable in certain respects, and they'll sometimes bust places without much reason, claiming all kinds of minor offenses, when in fact they just didn't get their share of the profits from the month.
That's unfortunate.
At least that's all the allegations. Everything they were arrested on was very generalized. It had nothing to do with the actual sexual activity. It's just the fact that they were arrested brought several things to light. And I think these places technically aren't supposed to exist, but the word is they pay enough to police and they're ignored. And when I say these places, I mean delivery health establishments in general. I don't mean the whole role-playing thing. The owners were charged with, like, pimping-related offenses, stuff like that. And, it's very odd for them to occasionally be arrested for pimping when certain places like this advertise in newspapers and such.
Yeah.
So it's all very questionable. The only truly questionable aspect of it is, like I said, the role-play that these people are actually like 18, 19-year-old girls pretending to be elementary and middle schoolers. But unfortunately, there are some people who are just stupid, because there's one 29-year-old man, according to the story, from Ibaraki Prefecture, who thought he was paying for an encounter with a young junior schooler who was actually a perfectly legal 19-year-old girl. And in all cases, the girls were 18 and over, just short and young looking. So, I guess as weird as it is, as long as they're not actually hurting kids, I can't say I have a direct issue with it.
Yeah. I think it really kind of does fall under the role play type thing.
Yeah.
Umbrella.
Yeah, umbrella.
It's one of those cases of just keep it in private and keep your hands off kids and do what you do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's a thing called escalation, and that's the one thing my mind is racing around right now.
Well, that's why I was just...
There's escalation in everything, but at the same time, I also believe in the idea of pressure release.
Yeah.
If you can get people to roleplay and get this jolly out of them, they're less likely to chase down some school kid because of sexual frustration.
Like, that's my theory about why there's a lot of molestation with the whole Catholic priest molestation thing, is they don't have any...
Yeah.
Release.
And at least here it may be expensive, but at least they can pay for it, do it, get out, and it's all legal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's not that likelihood to go out and chase something down, because it's much easier to go out and pay for it. At least in their cases.
Yeah.
Right.
I still don't know. That one's...
Like I said, it's questionable, but they're not actually hurting anybody, so I don't have a personal issue with it. Police have decided not to prosecute or even fire a police official in Japan who was taking upskirt photos of 24 policewomen and 14 women with a smartphone that was concealed in forensics footwear. In other words, you have a cop in Japan, a 35-year-old Kagawa prefecture officer, who was arrested for taking indecent pictures, but he was not formally charged. And the reason for this is sketchy, because as they put it, upskirt photos are invasions of privacy when you take pictures up women's skirts in public areas. But because he did it in interrogation rooms, they weren't public areas. Therefore, it was not enforceable as a charge.
Really?
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
It says that the pictures were taken at, quote, crime scenes and police facilities. They did not fall under the scope of public spaces in which upskirtism is banned.
Yeah, that's like the same thing of like people taking photographs of God, when the hell did I come up? I was doing research for a paper and I'm finding this website, and people were taking pictures of underaged accident victims, and
Ooh.
because they're deceased, they're not protected.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, this was news from Japan, but the news in the U.S. regarding this was actually worse.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Massachusetts' highest court, the middle of this week, said that upskirting on a train was not illegal.
I saw.
Huh?
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
a link about
This
that.
one was
Because
slightly
it's a
different.
because it's a public place, not a privately owned residence or something like that, and the person is fully clothed.
Yeah, that was actually the crux of it, was because he did do this in public. The trains are considered public property in a public space. But because the women he took pictures of the skirt of were fully clothed, there was not quite the same expectation of privacy if they accidentally flash their drawers.
Yeah, even though the guy's taken upskirts and it's not in their intention and so forth.
Yeah.
But it also has to do with, I guess, Massachusetts law. The voyeurism and so forth is only applicable if you're peeping into someone else's property and stuff like that, too. So public places actually was another crux of the argument.
Yeah, I mean, the basic statute as it was written said if they were fully clothed, it didn't really matter what you took pictures of.
Yeah. Regardless of the fact that, maybe they weren't, maybe they were going commando or, something else, it had no issues due to the fact that they were fully clothed. So they're currently rewriting the laws.
No, actually, on Friday they passed a new law.
Okay.
Upskirting in general is now banned. It's amazing how they caught up to that one.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And generally, laws are really slow to.
Yeah, the laws don't recognize new technology as quickly as they should because they're too busy arguing over, like, Obamacare and other bullshit. Or Benghazi or whatever, scandal of the week they can come up
Stupid
with.
thing, yeah.
Well, how about this? This is happy or stupid. Because there's a man suing a Las Vegas casino because he lost $500,000.
Uh-huh. What are circumstances behind this?
This one is kind of questionable because I don't know. This to me is more of a double fault. There was a man who apparently was so drunk he couldn't remember losing $500,000 until after waking up in his hotel room. His name is Mark Johnston. He apparently arrived drunk at the downtown Grand Casino in Vegas, and he kept drinking and kept gambling and lost $500,000. So the casino tried to withdraw the debt electronically from his account and failed. They're suing him for it. He's countersuing, saying that they shouldn't have given him free drinks and allowed him to lose that money. Now, under normal circumstances, I say this is just stupid losing.
Yeah.
However, in the story, it does mention that Las Vegas actually does have a statute that anyone that is obviously drunk cannot be allowed to gamble or drink.
Huh.
So he apparently had a few drinks before he arrived at the place. I guess the question is, how drunk is drunk? Because there are some people I've seen, I have relatives that could be blitzed off their ass but act completely normal.
Yeah.
I think it kind of has to come down to the legal intoxication rules.
Yeah, unfortunately, it varies from state to state. I guess
Right.
this is really going to come down to, the security footage outside and inside the building. They got to see what he looked like when he came in and if he could fool somebody into thinking he's sober. If he did, then there's not much they can do. If he's acting normal up until the time that he, actually left the table, what is there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is one of those wait-and-see moments, but I mean, $500,000? You better be drunk. He apparently already had a $250,000 account walking in, and he got them to extend it somehow and lost $500,000.
Oh man.
That would actually be a question when he signed the paperwork. If the signatures match at all, you could argue that he was perfectly sober when he decided to lose more.
Mm.
Oh well. The last bit of what the fuck news I have is it made me literally say what the fuck, because one, this story is about the Sicilian space program. I didn't know Sicily had a space program. Two, they launched a rocket into the stratosphere.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I should own if that was a mob-owned rocket. And three, they launched into the air with a model of a cannolo. It's a cream stuffed pastry. So they launched a fake pastry into space for some reason.
What? Why?
I'm thinking of all the Japanese cooking manga that would have a field day with this.
Now, the Sicilian space program, which costs a rough total of €350, not a big program, okay? They launched a rocket, not with a monkey, not with a mannequin, but with a fake pastry with a few cameras up into the sky. Apparently, a lot of this was largely symbolic, but it was attached to 2 large helium-filled balloons in a homemade spacecraft called the Canolo Transporter. Is this really a space program? Because this sounds like a drunk bet. It actually made it up to 29,768 meters, according to Paolo Capasso. He's 37 and a computer technician responsible for the careful calculations behind the launch on February 2nd. It actually says in the story, as a real canola would be unlikely to survive the voyage, the group made a model of the cherry-studded pastry with polymer clay material hardened in an oven. The craft had to weigh under 2 kilos to qualify for the easiest official permits to fly into high altitude. This whole thing is full of what the fuck nature, man. The body of the craft was made from an insulated ice cream box which protected the camera batteries from temperatures that drop below negative 50 degrees Celsius. I have no words for how cheap and Roadrunner-ish this sounds. It landed
They should go to Delaware then in November and just, apply for the pumpkin chunking thing.
I don't think so, because I don't think they allow balloons in that. This whole thing is just beyond cheap. It sounds like a bad sitcom. It really does. I attach balloons to an ice cream box and a camera to my fake pastry and let it go! The only thing that can make this even weirder is if the whole thing was funded by bitcoins. Okay, that's all the news I have. This week, our reading assignment was a series proposed by V, and that was Preacher. Read the first 5 issues of this. Who wants to give a synopsis of this story? I think I've been talking enough. Really? You gonna make me keep doing this?
No, I'm trying to figure out where to start with this.
Yeah, me too. Well, it's been a while since I've read it, unfortunately, I suppose.
I think the story is fairly simple. You have a young preacher who's been bonded to an extra-dimensional being who may be a new version of God, frankly, who is now looking for the previous version of God who quit his jobs in heaven. And he wants to make him tell the world what's going on. He's been joined in this by an ex-girlfriend who's a part-time prostitute, and a new friend of theirs who's a full-time English vampire.
When did it ever mention that she was a prostitute?
I think it was heavily implied later in the series. I admit 5 issues is early on in it.
Yeah.
I remember reading somewhere that she was a prostitute.
Okay.
And they're being beleaguered by heavenly and demonic forces, including the heavenly patron saint of all killers.
Yep.
Who is
an assassin.
Yeah, and a near invulnerable 6-gun shooter who apparently is who all assassins and killers pray to before they pull a job.
Didn't realize they were that religious, but okay.
Yeah.
Well, gang members have to pray to something when they go to church. The first thing that struck me was that the art by Steve Dillon. I've seen his work in several Marvel books lately. I think I've seen him work on the Hulk and the Thunderbolts in recent years. His style, I don't think has actually become more polished. It looks better in Preacher than it does currently. But
perhaps I didn't think it looked that great in Preacher either, personally, but
it's not terrific, but it does fit the tone of the book with this scratchy, kind of noirish style.
Yeah.
But the series has a strange sense of humor.
It's really dark.
Yeah.
Like, darker than anything I can recall having read in a comic book.
It's downright morbid. I do admit, though, that Dillon's art does fit the tone of the book, because everybody looks emaciated and haggard and just frickin' tired.
Yeah.
They actually look like life is hard. I guess the first issue, somewhere around page 15, really started to set its initial tone when Tulip, the ex-girlfriend, for some reason shot into a car full of mobsters, hit a guy in the jaw.
Yeah.
And the guy just says, "Do you think that was supposed to be a hit?"
So the guy missing his jaw, who obviously can't respond.
Yeah. I mean, after he orders the guy to go get her, then he looks almost bored, like he's trying to think, why would she do that? I'm not that bad.
I'm not a villain.
It did take a little bit to get going, because the first issue, while it gave you a quick introduction to everybody in the book, it didn't tell you a hell of a lot.
Yeah, it was very confusing.
Yeah. The only thing that was really well explained was the idea of the character of Genesis.
Yeah.
This baby that was a production of a seraphim and a demon, and apparently sets a new paradigm in heaven.
And that's just so odd.
Yeah. I'm trying to come up with better words. This series is a little hard to explain in succinct words. It's almost one of those things you have to sit down and read. But I will say for a Vertigo or DC book, this is way outside what I would consider normal for them. Just leagues outside what I would think was normal. On the bright side, though, they're very big issues, though. I think the average page count seemed to be somewhere in the 40s.
No, that was just the first one.
Oh, that was just the first? Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of like a double.
The rest of them are like 20-something.
Okay. It took a little bit of getting used to, because even when they introduced what was the name of the vampire in there? I can't believe I forgot already.
Cassidy,
yeah. Thank you. They didn't make it clear what he was at the very beginning either. They dropped a bunch of hefty clues, but when he's first shot in the temple and doesn't even acknowledge it, you really start wondering, what in the fuck is going on in this book?
Yeah, especially since
eye.
he's like fine the next time you see him.
Yeah. It is.
It's confusing and convoluted, but it has a really interesting. Like, wasn't it in the 3rd or 4th issue that they tried to assault some sort of heavily guarded compound with just the 3 of them? Or am I mixing that?
No.
I don't think that occurred in the 5 issues I read.
Yeah,
No.
must be much later.
Well, go ahead, V.
No, I could have sworn that happened real quickly, but.
Well, the other thing that happened in the first issue was that the lead character, Jesse, the preacher in the story, he ends up talking to this guy that I was never quite sure if it was a Saint of All Killers or another character. I didn't find out until the 4th issue. He's talking to some imaginary version of John Wayne.
John Wayne. No, I caught that immediately.
Well, I caught the Pilgrim reference, but again, I wasn't sure if he was talking to the Saint of All Killers in some kind of extended flashback.
Yeah, it was kind of confusing, and then the fact that I don't know what's going on with that.
Well, I kind of liken it to True Romance. I mean, Christian Slater in that movie kept talking to Elvis.
Okay, never seen the movie.
It's rather entertaining, I think, but it's definitely an R-rated movie, not for kids.
Well, so's this comic.
Yeah, I'd say that was pretty well solidified by the introduction of Assface.
Yeah.
Oh God.
That was awesome.
That is beyond morbid. The child of a sheriff shot himself but failed to kill himself, and so he's stuck with his puckered up jawline and divots in his head and a misshapen eye, and he ends up getting called Assface through the beginning of the series. Well, technically Arseface.
Yeah.
Because of course
Arseface sounds classier.
Yeah, it was the British vampire that said it, and he had no idea what that was. But by the 2nd issue, we well established that because of his bonding to Genesis, the preacher can actually make people do what he commands them to do.
Yeah.
Which he decides to example to Cassidy by making him stand on his head.
Culminated in the 5th issue with him literally making the sheriff that Jesse was unimpressed with fuck himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, Root.
Yeah, I remember that.
I hated that guy. I felt for him when I realized the shit he's going through. I still didn't like him any less.
I know. It's really kind of hard to talk about this series without really talking about the whole frickin' thing. It is a tight story, I think, though.
It definitely has a direction. I suppose it depends on the continuation, how reliably they stick to the story. If they focus pretty heavily on the story and they don't kind of go off on tangents, then I would say that it
I just wish it was less confusing.
I know.
The
whole thing is very difficult to put into just plain words.
This seems like something that would make and it seems like it would really make a lot more sense if it was a movie.
Well, remember, this came up in conversation because we found out that FX is
Right.
signed off to make the pilot of a TV show.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that would make a lot more sense in that setting.
This could make a heck of a
I-
TV show. The shooting schedule might be difficult considering how many night scenes and dusk scenes are on this series.
Yeah, especially since they're traveling with a vampire.
Yeah.
But yeah, is FX considered cable? I'm pretty sure it's not. So I don't know.
No, it's cable. They wouldn't get away with shows like The Shield and Sons of Anarchy if it was.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. But even still, to do this series justice, they'd really have to push the boundaries of what they can get away with.
Yeah.
I've seen some pretty violent stuff on that network, including the uncensored scenes of Underworld Evolution. Or was it Evolution? The fourth one in the series, the one where there's a child ripping out people's throats.
Rise of the Lycans?
No, that's the third one.
Yeah,
There's a
I've
fourth
never
one?
seen the fourth one.
Underworld Awakenings, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Haven't seen
there's
the
one
fourth
I
one
haven't
yet.
seen? Damn it.
Spoilers.
It's
They don't
one of
feel
my
bad, V. I haven't seen any of them.
I really like the Underworld movies, so.
And this comic is not heavy on action. It's a lot of exposition.
A lot of talking.
Yeah, but Garth Ennis, I followed a few of his different series. He has very heavy dialogue books, but he also makes very, very good books if you stick around him for more than the first couple story arcs. His first stories don't tend to pan out, but it's the second and third ones where things actually start to come together.
That makes sense. It's really hard to start out a story.
Yeah, he does a good job, though, of creating all these weird little mysteries throughout the first 3 and 4 issues that really start answering themselves by 4 and 5. Like how the preacher keeps seeing fire and mirrors. And how much the Genesis creature is talking to him in his head.
Although I'm not exactly sure how much talking is involved or if it's just kind of like a picture show.
Apparently, initially, it was just a few whispers and images, but after he got hit in the head, he figured it jogged something loose, and this thing started talking to him really seriously.
It's funny how often that happens in comics. Hit on the head, magic portal to visions.
Yeah. I wonder if it's talking to him as John Wayne. Maybe that's why John Wayne started appearing about this time in the series.
Maybe he's just crazy.
Well, that would be true, except he does have these weird powers to command angels to do what he wants.
Yeah, I suppose, but that's a recent development compared to seeing John Wayne since he was, 5 or something like that?
Yeah.
Not to mention in the fourth volume where they kind of laid out that hints thing where all these other organizations are getting involved, his grandmother was in there.
Somebody's was. I'm not sure whose.
I'm pretty sure she said, Jesse, you've strayed again. That doesn't make your grandmother happy, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but that could be metaphorical. She could be some other heavenly body that's just been watching over him since the time he was a preacher.
I don't know. Especially since he remarked on the fact that his parents getting together was against the rules. Kind of makes me wonder if... and then the fact that his father died young makes me wonder what the relationship going on there is and whether or not the grandmother was somehow involved.
Yeah. I will say this, though. The casting in this series, when they get it done, or if they get it done, the Saint of all killers is going to be very important.
Definitely.
As far as comic book villains go, he is actually kind of chilling in his invulnerability and his undogged determination to pull a job at the cost of anything else around him. The fact that he seems to be able to massacre people just because they're... I don't even want to say interfering, just because they're kind of ruining his day.
Yeah, no, he cares nothing for life.
Yeah. Or badges or authority. He killed cops just because they were irritating him, and then he killed everybody around because he told the cops if they didn't go, he was going to. He's a very freaky individual.
Yeah.
And his guns follow movie magic, where there's no such thing as a bullet count.
Well, we are talking about the Saint of all killers.
Yeah.
Which in itself is kind of a convoluted name, but unfortunately is a very apt description as to what he is. And then Sheriff Root at the end of his story arc killing himself, and I think with good reason after what happened to him.
Oh, yeah.
That I'm not going to talk about. I will let you guys read the book because it's well worth it. But, frankly, the series to me was a decent read. It's so far outside what I consider normal. And I have trouble with some alternative world stuff or things that aren't stuck in larger universes sometimes, but this doesn't need a larger universe. As soon as the characters are introduced to it, you find out how big everything is already.
Mm.
You know, they find out there's the equivalent of an entire subculture already happening. They're just involved in it now.
Yeah, apparently.
I mean, there's still some freaky stuff happening, though. I mean, the 5th issue was the beginning of a new arc that I think I'm going to finish about this whole Reaver Cleaver.
Mm.
This guy that just seems to be finding interesting ways to just maim people before killing them.
Literally taking off a dude's face and then nailing it back on.
Oh, God.
That was beyond sick. And is it just me, or does it seem like that the bumbling cop's partner may be involved in it all very deeply? The messages he got at the end were very...
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I mean, because they at the beginning of the comic they had somebody buying a magazine, adult magazine, and now I'm kind of wondering if that was the cop, if they're referring to whatever the Reaver Cleaver is doing, or if he's just gay.
Could be.
I don't know.
Yeah, this would have been written in the 90s, about the time that gay was still kind of a 4-letter word in our society.
Yeah, it's a very convoluted storyline at the moment.
Yeah, although it's still interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to see that early on they didn't get mired into the story of the Heavenly Search. You know, they actually found some interesting side tangents to go on that aren't too far from the story, but interesting enough to at least keep you in the characters.
Yeah.
I mean, that scene towards the end of the 5th issue where Cassidy jumped off the side of the Empire State Building just because he's near immortal and doesn't feel like taking the elevator.
Well,
I would
and
do
just
that.
just to fuck with him too.
Yeah.
Because he's shown clinging onto the side of it, just saying, "Oh, got you."
Yeah. It has a very quirky sense of humor, very morbid, but still a very apt one.
Yeah.
Frankly, after reading this, I think I would pick up the trade paperbacks on this. It's a good story.
It's not my cup of tea, but
Yeah, me too.
You know, I'm interested. I always love these Elseworld style tales. And you know, I don't have much faith in DC, but even this old book from their Vertigo line it kind of instills in me why they've hung around as long as they have, because sometimes they hire the right writers and allow them to do their own stories instead of getting stuck in their universal crap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ennis may have been wasted if they had him use all of his writing power on Batman forever. So I would read this myself. I wouldn't recommend it to many people, but as far as my personal entertainment, I would read this.
But certain people you'd recommend it to a lot.
Oh, certain people with dark senses of humor? Yeah.
And not faint of heart.
Well, I don't think faint of heart has much to do with it. There is the idea that the standard of violence in this one, in its day, would have been pretty high. Compared to a lot of things nowadays, it's not that bad. You know, it's not great. I mean, it's definitely not all ages. I wouldn't give this to any kid reading Donald Duck books. No way.
No.
But as far as full-blown adults, yeah, I think I'd hand this over.
yeah.
You know, I've seen Schwarzenegger movies from the same time that were worse than this.
True.
And half of those are on networks now. So, yeah. Yeah, I think it's a fun read. It's not necessarily like empowered style comedy, but it's still pretty groovy in my opinion.
Yeah. I definitely wouldn't hand it to any of my religious friends.
Oh, no way.
Oh my God, no.
But I'd probably be the one sitting in the middle of your living room reading it regardless of what anyone thinks, because I like the story.
Right. Well, if you can separate yourself from it and just basically consider, it is its own story, then, I don't see any problems with it. But
yeah, you're not going to see this character interacting with Superman. He's one of the few that could probably kill him just because.
kind of depends. Is the word of God a magical ability?
Would it matter?
I don't know.
Because if all you need to do is speak where he can hear you, then that means you can order him to you from across the planet, literally.
Yeah, but then of course, there's also the people that consider Superman yet another god. So maybe it won't have that effect on him.
I wonder if his power would involve just saying drop a testicle and all of a sudden, you magically just squirt a testicle out of your gonads.
No, it doesn't seem to have that effect.
Oh, damn it!
That would be hilarious.
Yeah, I guess it has a more literal effect because after all, he told that guy to go fuck himself, who then found an interesting way to do it. Yeah.
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 Yeah, and it wasn't by undulating penis reaching around into his anus.
No.
No.
The fact it got stuck in his colon.
Mhm. Oh, stop.
I still love by the end of that the fact that his son was having his own super heroic origin moment by screaming,
Yeah.
"Now I am Arseface!"
I had such a flashback to Kick-Ass. It was
I know. For all we know, Mark Miller wrote that as an homage to the series when he wrote the book.
who knows.
Could be. Comic book creators sometimes love their in jokes.
All
All right.
people love their in-jokes.
Yeah.
So I would count this as one of the most unique things I've ever read. I think it's highly enjoyable. It's just not a share for everybody.
Mm.
No.
I mean, V, you're the one that introduced us to us. I mean, what's your opinions on the book?
I agree. It's definitely very unique. I appreciate some of the humor. Like with a lot of comic books, for some reason, it just doesn't grab me. But
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know why. It just doesn't.
That's absolutely fair. I mean, it could just be my jadedness and how often I've read comic books could be why I've latched onto this so strongly simply because it's not the usual by any stretch of the imagination.
Mm.
But I do think it's quality. Or
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't know the awards that are given out on comic books very well, but I do believe that Preacher's won several of them in its day. And I do think it's earned.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's definitely a more pulp style.
Yes, very much. It's very pulp noir style. It's dark. And it's not the usual where characters throwing around powers with high morality are the ones who get things done. You could argue that these anti-heroes have some of the lowest morality in comic book characters.
Yeah, somewhat.
But the fact is, they are trying to get something relatively positive out of it.
Mm-hmm.
After all, you have a vampiric character who could spend all of his time biting people. Instead, he just seems to want to bite the dicks of the world. Now that I've said that out loud, I have this bad image in my head.
Oh man.
I think people understand where I'm going with that, but it is an entertaining book. I am working on trying to get us a guest. It turns out the D&D guy I was talking to,
Mm-hmm.
he contacted me and apologized. Apparently the emails I sent him were going into a spam filter,
Oh.
and he found them. So I'm waiting on a response from him to find out if he wants to come on next weekend.
Okay.
In the meantime, though, we do need a plan just in case, because obviously I'm still working on nailing it down.
Right.
I'm trying to think of what the right way to go would be. Because I don't want to just, schedule him and then find out he's been losing my emails again and just loses track of me.
Mm.
So does anyone have any suggestions for anything upcoming? I think we talked about another independent book, but I'm not sure.
Weren't we thinking about possibly going over the new Empowered?
We were discussing going back to that, because it was one of the few books we talked about that V would actually read on her own.
Yeah.
We talked about that. I get the feeling there was another independent book.
I can't.
There was one I was going to try and propose to you guys, and I need to remember which one that is. Mark Wade wrote it. What was it called? Oh, there was a series. Oh, there was a couple of different series I was thinking about. Both of them happened a while ago. There was a miniseries that Mark Wade did that I heard about called Empire. It's kind of a freaky story that was another DC's miniseries, kind of an Elseworlds type item, that this supervillain this Doctor Doom-like supervillain, I should say, had actually succeeded in taking over the world. And the story was about how he's trying to keep his seat of power. There was a second one I thought about because, we've been assaulting the new books so frequently lately, we kind of need to let them build back up new stories.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought maybe it'd be fun to take a look back at some of the comic books that got Steve and I not just into comics as friends, but one of the first ones we knew about as a pair. And I thought about the old Alan Davis run on Excalibur.
Oh, yeah. I think I still actually even have those.
I know I have those somewhere.
Well, I know I have them because you got me that year subscription for my birthday that one year.
Oh yeah. See, I do know you. But yeah, Excalibur is it was an X-Men. I don't want to say. Well, I guess spinoff would be the right word because for a while they weren't involved with the main books at all.
No, yeah.
But imagine a few X-Men characters and a couple other like British nationalists that were formed as a super team in London. I guess you could almost say it's where the X-Men meet Doctor Who, frankly.
Doctor Who?
Not literally, but I mean you've got American and English superheroes getting together and forming a team, and they're not just dealing with like supervillains; they're dealing with extra-dimensional threats, the occasional threats through time. One of them is a potential knight to the throne of the multiverse.
Yeah.
So it's a very different group of stories. I mean, their first issue, as they're coming together, one of their members is being chased by extra-dimensional hounds.
Yeah, that was kind of freaky.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you guys think? In case this guy doesn't come through, Empire, Excalibur?
Well, whichever. The Excalibur thing, since we seem to have spent most time talking about that just now.
Okay.
It's the one I know the most about. I read it as a kid.
Yeah. Which area do we want to? Do we want to just pick it up at Excalibur #1, or do we want to kind of jump forward a little bit when they're dealing with their little multiverse thing, or jump forward even more and deal with?
I'd say the first 5 issues, simply because we got to consider what this is like as a series that somebody would have to get into, and since Excalibur no longer
exists,
it's no longer a current book. The only way to get a foundation of the team is to look at the foundation of the team.
Yeah. I was just wondering, since you mentioned Doctor Who, and then they eventually got involved with, wasn't that organization called Who?
Yeah, the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
So they did get involved with a British organization called Who.
Yep.
I remember the thing that I was going to suggest that we read was that Star Trek comic thing I linked.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But that's a current storyline like going on right now, right?
Yeah, I think we're probably going to have to wait until that.
I think it's a little mini-series, though.
Well, let's give it a little while, because I want that to build into a full story. I mean, go ahead.
No, that makes sense. I was just trying to agree with you.
I was just going to say, if we start picking it apart issue by issue, the whole conversation could get very diluted by the time we actually get to the end of the story. So I am interested in that. That is a good idea. It's just we need to let it play out.
Fair enough.
Yep. Do we want to actually read the actual comic, or do we just want to read the little mini-series where they have...
I want to at least read the story where this whole Elseworlds thing is happening, because
I think that was it. I think it was a two-issue thing.
It looked like the issue that V showed us was the beginning of the story, though. And that came out this month, I thought.
Huh. I don't know.
So that means that the end of the story would come out next month if it's only 2 issues. It's going to require some research before we're sure. Because obviously we don't know enough about it yet.
Yeah.
So let's just say right now it's the first 5 issues of Excalibur.
Okay.
All right.
That works for me.
All right. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. I invite you to roll with us again next week. Hopefully we'll have less upskirt talk and JK sex stories. Have a great weekend. I am Jeremy.
Steve.
Jesse.
And V.
Have a great one. And if only I knew that upskirting was legal, I would have visited V a long time ago.
Yeah, but in Texas, she can shoot you.
As only she didn't invite me. It's like vampires in Texas. If they invite you in, all bets are off!